Thank you, Angel. Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the April 26th, 2023 full board meeting of Manhattan Community Board 11. My name is Jessica Elliott, and I'm the Vice Chair of Community Board 11. This meeting is called to order at 6:36 p.m. Tonight, we are joined by District Manager Angel Muscane, Assistant District Manager Khalid Nixon, and Community Associate Marlene Pierre. In order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. No one may speak until granted the floor. CB11 members, if you have a question about board business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. If you click the participants icon, the participants panel should appear and you should find the raised hand function there. If you still have technical difficulty, you may click the chat icon and relay your difficulty to the staff. Members should not engage in a back and forth discussion. The chair will recognize the next person to speak. The chat function should not be used for CB11 business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information like an email address that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. When a member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can unmute yourself so that you can speak. Please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. Members of the public can register to speak in the public session by completing the pre-registration form and providing their name, affiliation, and what topic they wish to speak about. A link to the registration form has been shared in the chat. Registration for the public session needs to be done by 7:15. We will now take attendance by roll call.
Hello, everyone. I will be calling everyone's first and last name at the beginning of the roll and at the end of the night, but during the time when we are voting, I will just be repeating each person's last name, just an FYI. Jose Altamirano.
Present.
Leroy Andino. Stephanie Arroyo. April Autry.
Present.
Adem Briha. Juhud Chaudhry.
Present.
Beautiful. Diane Collier. Devon Cronchow.
Present.
Okay. Kenneth Crouch.
Present.
Carlos Diaz. Rosa Diaz.
Present.
Beautiful. Angela Donadell.
Present.
This Dr. Madison.
Beautiful. Jessica Elliott.
Present.
Jessica Elliott.
Present.
Judith Febrero. Raja Flores.
Present.
Beautiful. Sandy Garcia. Brandon Gillespie. David Giordano is excused. John Green.
Here.
Wanda Hopkins.
Here.
Alonzo Johnson.
Michelle, you're breaking up a little bit. Wanda said she's here.
Oh, okay, thank you. Alonzo Johnson, is that better?
Yes.
I thought you not. Jewel Jones.
Present. She's still
Marissa
breaking
Mack
up.
is excused. Marissa Mack is excused. Giselle Malave.
Present.
Okay, beautiful. Malik McCullough. Jennifer Mayer.
Present.
Jessica Morris. Nilsa Orama.
Present.
Beverly Pabon.
Shalom and present.
Okay. And Art Perez is excused. Claudio Perez.
Present.
Beautiful. Roberto Perez. Shavasia Robinson Tagg. Asha Rodriguez.
Present.
Eugene Rodriguez is absent, is excused, excuse me. Dawn Sanders. Okay. Xavier Santiago.
I'm in transit, but present.
Okay. Thank you. Isaac Scott.
Present.
Beautiful. Russell Schuler.
Present.
Beautiful. Vincent Torres. Okay. Anne-Marie Vasquez. Jason Villanueva is absent today. Candy Vivi Vasquez. No. Michelle Wilshire Clement, I am here. Jordan Wright. And Jason Wu.
Present.
Thank you, Jason. That is complete.
We have quorum.
Thank you. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and was posted online. If there is no objection, we'll adopt the agenda as stated. Board members, if you object to adopting the agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Seeing no objections, the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. We will now move into our pre-registered speakers. A few ground rules for those wishing to speak. You must sign up to give testimony, providing your name and affiliation. You will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. You should address your testimony to the board, not the public. You should speak clearly and into the microphone. You should be prepared to respond to board members who may ask questions in order to clarify facts and opinions presented in your comments. Board members should only ask clarifying questions. Commentary will not be entertained. Has anyone signed up to speak in the public session? Yes. All right, our first registered speaker is Jeremy Markman.
Hi, so I'm with New York State Nurses Association, and actually we're gonna have our RN Elysia McMyers, who is logged on with my name and is having trouble renaming herself, but so she's not Jeremy Markman. I will put her name in the chat, and I'm gonna turn it over to her.
Good evening, Community Board 11 in East Harlem. My name is Elysia McMyers. I'm a registered professional nurse of over 31 years, and I'm a board member of Community Board number 9 in the Bronx, and I work in Harlem Hospital. Go figure. Okay, so I just want to let you know that New York State Nurses Association, specifically for the New York City Health and Hospitals and mayoral agencies, are in a fight for their lives with their contract negotiation. See, the New York City Health and Hospitals and mayoral system is the foundation of public health care for our city, and the nurses, which are the foundation of H&H. We represent over 9,000 nurses, and on March 2nd of this year, 2023, our contract expired. And this is the first time since the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic that the New York City public health sector nurses are bargaining a contract. Our nurses and healthcare professionals work in our public healthcare system, and they need a fair contract that helps deliver the healthcare that New Yorkers deserve. Our nurses need a voice in rebuilding and strengthening the city's healthcare system to better serve the needs of all of New York's communities. New York cannot have a strong public response to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic or address new and emerging threats without a strong public health system with enough nurses to provide quality care. I'm also a local LBU vice president of my local hospital, but I am the executive council vice president of New York Health and Hospitals, nurses and mayoral agencies. So it's costing the city too much to keep nurse pay so low. They spent expensive money on temporary agency nurses, which currently make up 25% of all of our New York City public health hospitals. And according to our president, Dr. Katz, at Jacoby Medical Center, they spent approximately 18 to 24 million a year on temporary nurses because we just can't keep the nurses at the bedside. And that's more than it would cost to actually bring fair nurses' wage to Jacoby or any other of our public hospitals to parity with the private sector. So we're asking for your support to support the New York City public nurses and the mayoral agencies. So we estimate that in 2021, training a new nurse costs approximately $25,000 each. But some studies will tell you that the cost of replacing just one nurse is $100,000. They come to our hospitals and they get trained and then they leave.
Thank you so much, Elysia, and thank you for your service. I would encourage you to also attend our Health and Human Services meeting should you need any additional support, but I see that you there's a link in the chat to pledge your support. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board? Please raise your hand. Michelle?
Thank you for your presentation. I just wanted to find out, are you looking presently for a letter of support from us prior to the final deliberations?
Well, thank you, Michelle. We would appreciate a letter of support from the board. That would be most helpful.
Thank you, Michelle. Beverly?
Yes, thank you so much for your presentation, for your services. We couldn't have made it without you with the pandemic. So I really appreciate everything that you do, even before the pandemic. You know, people have been in and out the hospitals for a while, so we have good care and the nurse and the hospitals from nurses that give you that personal touch on a daily basis. It's really appreciated. So my question to you, you said that it costs $25,000 to train a nurse, but $100,000 to replace them. I just want to make sure that I put that in my notes.
Sure, Betty. Yes, that's a great question. It is approximately $25,000 to train. And then after you train, once the nurse leaves, you then have to spend money to recruit, to bring on a new nurse, to then train them. And it takes, you know, approximately whatever weeks it takes, whether it's 3 months, 6 months. So all that time that you spent with the materials, the education, if you have simulations that you have to perform, all that education, you have to repeat it again and again and again. So HR is also involved. It's the whole process. So yes, it costs way more than to train one nurse. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you.
Isaac?
Good evening. Thank you for coming and thank you for your presentation. I wanted to, I'm the chairperson of the Human Services Committee, and I wanted to just ask if you could, you know, state your information on the record, but please put it in the chat so that I can send you a formal invite. Our next meeting is on the 8th. It's usually the second Monday of every month, at 6 o'clock. Yeah, and if you come, then we can, you know, sort of expedite that. You can come and speak to the rest of the committee, and it'd be great too. Absolutely, yes, please. So I just wanted to just put that out there. So after everyone is asking their questions, if you could just please leave your information.
We'll do that. Thank you, Isaac, for that invitation, and we'll be more than happy to present.
Thank you, Isaac. And thank you, Elysia. Generally, the practice of the board is that the work happens in the committee, and full board is where we take our positions as a full board. So we would take that, you know, position for a letter of support in the Health and Human Services Committee. So we'll start that process there.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I appreciate it. Thank you, Community Board 11, for your time.
Thank you. Michelle, is that an old hand? We have to keep the agenda moving.
It is not an old hand. I just wanted to make sure if there was a deadline that she needed the letter of support for.
Hi, Michelle. Yes, thank you. We would appreciate a letter of support before June 1st.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you for being here. Our next speaker is Odette Wilkins.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. I'm President and General Counsel of Wired Broadband. We're here for safe technology. We're focusing on safe technology for the public. And I've spoken before about the Link 5G towers. I understand that it is going to be discussed tonight as part of the agenda. I just wanted to alert you, and I've also sent an email to your district manager a couple of days ago with a copy of a letter from the Federal Communications Commission to CityBridge, dated April 20th, 2023, that it failed to comply with federal law when it started construction of its Link 5G cell towers in New York City. So this notification comes on the heels of a letter sent by Representative Jerry Nadler to the FCC requesting a historic preservation review of these towers. Now, according to the FCC, CityBridge was required to conduct a review under the National Environmental Policy Act, NEPA, and a review under Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act for each cell tower and each antenna prior to construction. That did not happen. So therefore, CityBridge is not permitted to construct Link 5G cell towers while this review is underway. And so consequently, CityBridge appears to be in material breach of several provisions under the franchise agreement. I've reviewed it. I'm a technology attorney. I negotiate technology agreements. And this should be a subject for investigation. And there are many questions that arise. Why did CityBridge not engage in environmental or historic preservation review prior to construction as required by federal law? Why did OTI not know, the Office of Technology and Innovation not know that CityBridge had not complied with federal law? And why has OTI not required documentary evidence of compliance? And there's a footnote in this letter by the FCC, footnote 14, which has not ruled out enforcement actions against CityBridge. So if there's any construction of Link 5G cell towers in your district at this moment, you need to immediately notify 311, the Office of Technology and Innovation, and your community board district manager, your city council member, and your borough president. So I just wanted to alert you of that. I know that there are 4 locations now that are being considered in Mount Morris Park West, and then on East 110th Street and East 111th Street. And so I wanted to bring that to your attention.
Thank you so much, Odette. Are there any questions from the board? Please raise your hand. Jessica Morris.
Thank you. And thank you, Ms. Wilkins, for continuing to engage in this conversation. I think one of the questions that came up, and I know that this was discussed at the Public Safety and Transportation Committee, and that it may come up later in our business session as we, as a board, take a position with regard to the cell towers. My question is, are you aware of the particular case in our district where one side of the street is District 10 and is the historic district, the other side of the street is District 11, our district, and not the historic district? So it's a funny, precarious situation. I'm not sure if you are particularly citing that instance, and if there is any action that we should be aware of with regard to the preservation provision procedural breach. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a very good question. The Historic Preservation Act doesn't cover areas just within historic districts, but areas that adjoin historic districts. So that would include across the street.
Wonderful. Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you, Jessica. Are there any other questions? Please raise your hand.
I can include the FCC letter in the chat if that would help.
Yes, please share any information in the chat, and someone is also asking for your email address.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Great. All right, we'll move on to our next speaker. Thank you so much, Odette. We have Jennifer Meyer next. Jennifer.
Yes, hello. Speaking on the same topic, want to talk about the addition of 5G towers, this time thinking a little bit more about health. So I just want to remind folks that the reason that these 5G towers are being considered is to decrease the connectivity gap in under-resourced areas such as East Harlem, and thinking that also it may increase safety in places like parks by ensuring that there is cell service where people might not always feel safe, and also to close the connectivity gap between New York City and other cities, including Philadelphia, Newark, Chicago, and Houston. So thinking specifically about the health of 5G, and I have a little bit of experience in this, but I mostly have consulted other experts in this field. I work at Mount Sinai. I was able to talk to some doctors, but there's currently no reason to believe that 5G will be more harmful than other technologies that we widely use. And the New York Times has found that the health information circulating online about 5G has largely been produced by Russian organizations with political interests. And many peer-reviewed studies have shown to be statistically significant, have not shown any links to negative health impacts, including cancers or weakened immune system. And this has been also stated by the American Cancer Society. So thinking about the science of 5G, 5G uses radio frequency energy. This is non-ionizing radiation. So radiation does not necessarily equal radioactive. Radiation comes in two different forms. One is ionizing, which is the one that is not so healthy. So that has the potential to change your DNA. This includes X-rays, ultraviolet light, and gamma rays, while non-ionizing radiation only has the ability to produce heat. So 5G is in that non-ionizing span, and it ranges the spectrum from radio waves to microwaves. So these are things that we're already experiencing daily, and these are actually lower on the scale than things like visible light. Lastly, just according to the American Cancer Society, these higher frequency waves used by 5G, they actually travel a shorter distance than the lower frequency waves. So that is why there needs to be more towers, because they don't travel as far. Because of that, also, like, they can't penetrate the body and other structures as easily. So there are more towers, but they operate at a lower frequency because there are more of them around. Since these high frequency waves are less likely to penetrate the body, the American Cancer Society has actually concluded that they may have less potential health impacts. And they said that there is currently nothing that shows that they are more or less of a concern regarding health. So I want us to really focus on some of the issues Odette mentioned. So are these being placed in the right area for our community? Are we thinking about the culture and history? And does our community need these rather than the health impacts?
Thank you, Jennifer. Are there any questions for Jennifer Meyer? Please raise your hand through Zoom. Asher?
Just if possible, if you could link those studies you mentioned in the chat, just for those of us who would like to read.
Yes, I'll add the links in the chat.
Thank you.
Thank you, Asher. Beverly? Beverly?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so very much, both of you guys, Jessica and Jennifer, for your presentations. I'm glad I'm hearing both sides of this. My question to you, Jennifer, is regarding the connectivity available in our area. I know in other areas, they don't want the towers because they don't have any problems with getting Wi-Fi or whatever like that, because it's in their house or whatever, or they can afford it. Would it be better for people within our community to be able to afford it within their household, so you wouldn't have to have these type of towers, on the outside, where people are concerned about health, even though, it's still being weighed whether it is a health issues with these towers?
Yeah, I think just my personal opinion on that would be, it would be great if we could provide like broadband to everyone. I think unfortunately, I don't know if that's on the table, like financially and what that would all entail, but we do know that people do have phones and they have cellular service. So if we can improve that, if people can rely maybe on like the hotspots from their phone through these 5G towers, to me at least, that seems like the most obvious solution to the problem right now, while we think about, how do we get broadband, reliably into people's homes for an affordable price.
Thank you.
Okay, and one more question, and to follow up on that, in regards to this just being the 5G, I know I've seen commercials right now that's being posted on the television regarding 10G for certain carriers. And I want to know whether or not the FCC or whoever powers that be are doing testing or examining the information, whether or not the 10G would be an issue, because they're not even going from 5 to 6, they're going from 5 to 10. And if these towers are in the area, would they be able to quickly adapt to the 10G if everybody started going from, going to the 10G?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I do know that like the 5G just stands for generation. So I don't know what 10G would be exactly. I don't know if someone else knows more about the radio waves that 10G like entails. But I know all of the radio waves that it like cellular service is provided on is still within the spectrum that is less than visible light.
Thank you, Jennifer. Nelson?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Beverly.
Good evening. I'm wondering, I read an article, I think it was on the Upper East Side website, I'm not quite sure, that 5 sites that have been designated for towers were no longer being considered, and it seemed like they were outside public institutions like museums and other such locations. Would you have any knowledge of that? Because I'm very curious as to why those towers, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there's enough information regarding 5G and health impacts. I definitely believe that anybody can argue a point depending on what side that person is on or what their beliefs are. So I like to look at as much information as possible. And so this struck me that 5 sites for the public, those towers will no longer be located there. And there was some opposition to where the towers had been located. So I'm just wondering if you know anything about those towers that are not going up.
From my understanding, I think there are concerns about health, and I never think there should be a shortage of research. So I think let's do more research and figure that out. I think the main components of those towers not being built has been because, to be honest, they're not aesthetically pleasing. So I think that's something again, we need to think about. But I think those communities largely didn't want them because they felt like they didn't need them and that they weren't necessarily something that fit in with the dynamics of their community, and didn't appreciate the look of them, which I think is definitely something that I'm also considering when we're thinking about where to place them.
Thank you so much, because I do know that East Harlem, we seem to be the test site for everything and anything. And so we have more than our share fair in a lot of things. And so I was just curious as to why other communities did not want these towers there. They are not pleasant to look at. And of course, there's always the concern when they're near residential areas. So I think.
Yeah, and I did want to highlight, as part of the initiative to place them, they are strategically being placed in communities that don't have as great as connectivity. So that has been Northern Manhattan and the outer boroughs. And like I said, we are behind compared to other cities in placing 5G towers.
I am going to have to move the agenda along. Thank you, Nilsa, and thank you, Jennifer. I will recognize Amanda.
Hi, sorry, it's my first community board meeting. I just wanted to thank I think it was Jennifer for bringing that up. I'm a teacher at a school in the community. I'm also a resident in the community. And I've been teaching here for 11 years. And since there's been a switch to so many more virtual topics, and in general, that's just like where our world is going. Our school, our students there's definitely a gap of kids who have access to internet and who doesn't, and it's really, really impacting their ability to keep up. And I think if we're thinking about everyone in the community, I think that's just something that like deserves to be a part of that conversation, that it really is impacting students' ability to keep up with their education. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Amanda, for your comment, and welcome to your first community board meeting. I hope that you continue to join. This is the full board meeting, so we have many committees that take place over the course of the month, and this is sort of the culmination of all of that work. So encourage you to visit those committees as well. Thank you for being here. The next public speaker is Taisha Smalls. Taisha?
Hi, everybody. How you doing? My name is Taisha Smalls. I am the community organizer at WeAct. I just have two announcements. First off, we're having our candidates forum for City Council District 9 this Saturday, on Saturday, May 13th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we're inviting the community board to come join us. We'll have three candidates there. They'll be we'll be asking questions to them and get their response. The location is 501 West 152nd Street. And we'll hope to have you there. The second announcement is that our environmental health Beauty Inside Out working group in collaboration with Brother Sister Soul is having a Spring and Justice Block Party this Friday, April 28th from 3 to 6 p.m. The location is 506 West 143rd Street. There will be games, music, art, and of course, talking about environmental justice, about planting trees and discussions of that. You can register for the block party at community.weact.org/springing. And if you want to know more information about the block party, you can contact Dr. Michaela Martinez. Is Micaela Martinez. Her email is michaela.martinez@weact.org. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Taisha. If there are any questions, please raise your hand. And before I recognize the first question, just as a quick reminder, if you have not pre-registered to speak, you have until 7:15 to please use the link that Angel put in the chat in order to register to speak. Jessica?
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you, Taisha, for coming to share this information. If you can put those points of contact in the chat, that would be helpful to follow up on. And thank you for doing that. And I also just want to acknowledge WeAct was named as a big partner in some of the activity that will be happening with regard to the federal pots of money, infrastructure bill, and other environmental justice efforts based on the incredible track record that WeAct has. So thank you for the good work that you're doing, that you're representing, and thank you for putting that information in the chat if you could. That's my only question.
Thank you, Jessica. And thank you. Yes, congratulations to WeAct. What a great accomplishment, and thanks for bringing that up, Jess. Any other questions for WeAct and Taisha? Please raise your hand. Okay, thank you, Taisha, for being here, and lovely to see you on Friday at the Earth Day conference. We'll move on to our next speaker. Tanasha Williams. You have 3 minutes, Tanasha.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, Community Board 11, for having me. My name is Tanasha Williams. I am from John Jay College for Justice and Opportunity, and we are a branch of the CUNY system that services justice-impacted individuals in education. And so we're vested in ensuring that this population of people are not forgotten about in our community, and that they have an equal and equitable opportunity in obtaining their education. So I just wanted to make sure that the community board knows knows that we are here, right? And so we have a range of programs ranging from HSC. For those of you that may not be familiar with HSC, it's the GED program. College Initiative, we help our students springboard into any college that they desire, right? It could be CUNY, it could be SUNY, it could be a private also university. We have the College Exploratory program as well, which is a college prep course. All of our services are free. Those that are interested in becoming more familiar with the computer, we have a tech program as well. And we also have a Navigator certificate program, and it's a 16-week program taught once a week by John Jay professors, and you receive a certification at the end. It is specifically for those interested in entering the human services industry. All of our programs come with Metro cards. Our Navigator students, we make sure they eat. The HSC program is very specific, where students pursuing their GED will get a laptop, a $1,200 incentive with each task that they complete, as well as a monthly Metro card. Also we wanted to also invite all of Community Board 11, everyone on this call, please spread it far and wide. We are doing a mock event, and what we want people to be able to come and experience is what happens to people when they're released, right? And so we are actually having this 2-day event. You can choose one day or another. It's happening May 30th and May 31st. I can even put the link in the chat if you would like to read more about the event, or if anyone is interested also coming in to volunteer, we welcome you as well. Oh, yummy watching this clock.
Thank you so much, Tanasha, and for keeping it on time. Are there any questions for Tanasha? Please raise your hand through Zoom. All right. Thank you, Tanasha, for being here and for your announcement. Our next speaker is Marilyn. And if you could state your last name for the record, please, Marilyn.
Yes, hi, good evening. My name is Marilyn Galpin. I'm sorry I'm having technical issues, so you won't be seeing my beautiful face. This is a little different from what everybody else is discussing. It's not on the agenda. It's to bring attention to something in your district, and that's the Animal Care Centers of New York City. People may not be aware that's a shelter that's on East 110th Street. And they're in a major crisis, and there's need for reform. Right now, they have disease in there rampant. So that means if a member of this district, for any reason, has to relinquish an animal, the chances of that animal are very high of getting sick and then ending up losing their life. And I believe that the district deserves a state-of-the-art shelter, which it does not. The shelter is so antiquated. It doesn't have proper HVAC system and so on. It's a very old building. And I think members of the, in your area might be interested, as well as the community board, in being proactive to ask the council member in that area to help get involved in making changes that are going to save lives. What's going on is not fair. We also have members of the public, unfortunately, especially post-COVID, losing jobs and having trouble paying for the pet. There's actually people who are relinquishing animals for lack of pet food. So one of the things that the council member can do in that area is maybe have a pet food drive, use some funding that they may get for giving their constituents free microchipping. The idea is to help people in the area keep their pets. And if something has to happen again, if they go in the facility, an animal should have every chance to come out alive. And what's going on now, that's not happening. It's an inhumane shelter system. And I think that constituents would love to have something they deserve, and that's a full state-of-the-art shelter where also that they can get services, which doesn't exist right now. So, and if there's anyone I could put in, I'm the head of an local advocacy group. I could put that on my Facebook page if people want to come and get proactive. There's no legislation in place now that I can ask the board to support. But I'm going to see if I can get a letter from maybe a council member that maybe the board wants to come on to, and that's to another council member. To again get that maybe over to the council member in your district there to encourage getting making maybe actually creating some legislation, as well as encouraging the shelter to make life-saving changes and policies in the shelter.
Thank you so much, Marilyn. Are there any questions? Please raise your hand. Beverly? Beverly?
Yes, I'm sorry, I was speaking without unmuting. Thank you, Marilyn, for that presentation. I think this is the first time I've heard anything regarding animal issues at community board. I also have gotten pets from that facility in the past. Can you tell me how right now are you being funded?
How I am being funded?
No, how is that facility being funded at
Oh,
110th Street?
well, because it's a municipal run shelter, it's run by the Department of Health that oversees it, which is actually an issue. And so funding is given by the DOH to the ACC, but the DOH does not give them funding for specific outreach programs. The problem that's going on now is that we need an entity that's going to handle the disease. The disease is out of control. And I don't think that's fair or right for someone in your district, like I say, if have to go to the shelter to relinquish an animal, knowing that there's a good chance their animal is going to be killed. You want a shelter system that's going to have humane treatment. Dogs are stuck in cages all day. So right now it's also public-private. I believe they also can get private donations. And also if the members know that there's an urgent need for adopters, fosters, to help the shelter because they're so overcrowded right now. So it is publicly funded as well as privately funded. They'll have donors.
Thank you, Marilyn, and thank you, Beverly.
Thank you.
Are there
Thank
any
you.
other questions?
Yeah, this is something people usually don't talk about as the animal issues, but it's a social justice issue. I think the city deserves better than to have kill shelters, lack of humane treatment going on.
Thank you, Marilyn.
Okay, thank you so much for
Thank
letting
you
me
so
share.
much. Thank you for being here. Our next speaker is Sophie Sikor.
Hey, I'm actually I'm with an elected official office.
Got it. Thank you. We'll come to you in a bit. We'll go to James Gonzalez.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, perfect. Hey, everyone. My name is James Gonzalez. I am the co-owner of La Fonda Boricua. If many of you do not know La Fonda Boricua, we've been in the community under different management for over 30 years, serving the community. I took over 5 years ago. The reason I wanted to introduce myself and start making myself more active in these meetings is because many of you do not know that during the pandemic, it was me who started and brought World Central Kitchen into East Harlem to make sure that a lot of the seniors were fed, working alongside Jeremy Vega and a few other individuals that helped get a list to feed seniors. The reason I wanted to introduce the restaurant one more time is because we're still here, we're still strong, and there's more that we want to do in the community to continue to make sure that, you know, those who don't have a voice, such as seniors and other individuals, are taken care of and looked out for. When I say I brought World Central Kitchen in, I mean, we've pushed over 1.2 million meals inside of Spanish Harlem, while at the same time keeping quite a few restaurants alive with contracts that World Central Kitchen provided, while making sure we were feeding a list of 8,000 seniors daily, 6 days a week. Forgive the transition, I'm just walking my dog. that's, I don't know how much more time I have left, but yeah, I just want to introduce myself. I want to make myself more active in these community board meetings because there are a lot of things in this community that needs fixing, such as the vacant buildings, such as the trash, such as seniors, the meals that are being cut for them very soon, those budgets. Seniors are very important to me because of my grandparents who are no longer with me. They taught me a lot in this world. And one of the things that they always mention, especially my grandmother, was the one thing you don't deny in life is food. That said, yeah, I just want to be more active so you guys will hear from me. Last thing I'll say before my time is cut, and forgive my language, but I am a no bullshit kind of guy. I am willing to help you guys as much as you guys need my help. Just understand that I'm very direct. So guys, I appreciate y'all. And thank you guys for allowing me to speak.
James, you just missed the deadline to apply to be a community board member, but we welcome all members of the public to join any of our committee meetings, which happen throughout the month. And as I stated before, those committees are where the work is done, and this full board meeting is to sort of ratify the actions of those committees. So I heard you mention a lot of topics. There's a lot of different committees. You can see them in our calendar on our community board website, which I will post in the chat. Thank you so much. And then I will recognize Nelsa.
Hello, James. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the service you've given to our community. I just wanted to bring up also, like Jessica said, you just did miss the deadline to potentially apply as a member, but we also have something called public membership, where you can look over the committees, and if there's one that really calls your attention, that you can apply through the community board website for consideration just to be part of that committee. And so you would be part of community board 11 as a public member, which would allow you to work and help shape topics and discussion on the community level, on the committee level. The only difference is that during a full board meeting such as now, you would not have voting rights because you're not a fully appointed member, but you definitely can be part of a committee. So should you choose, or attend all our committees and be as honest with your opinions as you were tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. All right, we will move on to our next speaker, Susan Peters.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Hi, I'm Sue Peters, and I've been helping to educate people in various community boards about the dangers from the jumbo 5G cell antennas. And I just want to talk about that tonight. And I just want to reiterate what Nilsa said, her concern about doing your own research. The information about 5G, you will not find it in the mainstream media because of the powerful influence of the telecommunications industry. So let me just say a few things, facts that you can research yourselves, okay? The radiation levels currently in our neighborhoods, even before the 5G jumbo poles are installed, we don't know what they are. We do know there are neighbors in different community boards that have expressed the fact that it makes them sick, even before 5G. Now you're going to add additional radiation to people's health in their neighborhood. And these 5G towers will be 10 feet away from some of the apartments where people live. And they'll be being radiated 24 hours a day. So this is something you can research. In January, the 25th of January of this year, Queens Community Board 1 did a public meeting. It's recorded. I'll put the link in the chat. And OTI, the Mayor's Office of Technology that is working with City Bridge that represents the telecommunications, they spoke. All they speak about is the positives. They don't give really very many facts that are known by many, many people. They will not say how much radiation will be emanating from the 32-foot jumbo cell towers. These cell towers will have not one antenna, but 5 on them. And they will not talk about the history of the FCC guidelines. The FCC is the federal agency that monitors or supposed to monitor the radiation and in our communities. So the FCC in 2013, they opened up their docket and they said to the public, they said, oh, send us information because we're thinking about updating our 1996 guideline.
Susan, your time is up.
Oh, sorry. I'll put the links in the chat.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any questions for Susan Peters? All right, seeing none, we will move to our last public. Oh, go ahead, Milsa, sorry.
No, I'm sorry, I have a late finger. Susan, thank you for coming, and I know that you've attended several of our meetings, trying to educate and bring information to the board. The links that you're going to put on the chat, were those the links that you had mentioned in last month's meeting, that if someone would write to you, that you could share that information?
Well, I have a fair amount of sources that you can research and tell me where to send them, and I will send them to that person.
Yeah, I think if you would send them, if you haven't already, and it's possible, to the public safety chair, as well as the chair and vice chair of the board and the district manager, he can then disseminate that information to the rest of the board so that we can also do more reading even after any decision that we vote on, because I think it's important that we educate ourselves. I want to thank you so much for your advocacy.
I mean, it's totally, you have to self-educate. Think of the history of the tobacco industry. We were not told about it for 30 years. And think of the industry, the DTT history. We were being sprayed with this chemical and we weren't being told about it. And today we have 5G and we're not being told about the dangers of it.
Thank you, Susan. We do have one more question. Thank you, Nelsa. James?
Sorry. I'm glad that this is a concern for everyone. So my question is, are there stats and data on how many of these towers exist in neighborhoods such as the Upper West Side, neighborhoods ranging from Billionaire Road, which I believe is 79th Street, Park Madison, and Lexington down towards 59th Street? Because I feel if we know and have a better understanding of if these towers exist in more, I guess, richer neighborhoods, then it would make sense or make us feel a little more safer. But we should know that data as well, not just what's being released by, agencies that are usually paid to release this data. But if we could find out that, that'd be great.
Is that a question for me?
It is.
Okay.
Do you know how many of these towers exist currently on 79th Street, Billionaire Road, right? 79th all the way down to 59th. We're talking about Park Avenue, Madison Avenue, Lexington. If there's towers that exist there, then I'm not too objective to it existing in Spanish Harlem, at Barrio. But if there aren't many towers there, or there aren't towers on the Upper West Side, then of course it raises a larger flag as to why towers don't exist there, but they're willing to place it where we are.
You just have to keep it moving along. Go ahead, Sue.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Number one, Gail Brewer, City Council representative from the Upper West Side, has stated, though she hasn't gotten it in writing from the city, she stated that she was told when she asked the mayor's office that there would be no 5G cell towers installed on the Upper West Side. I don't know if they're going to give her proof of that in writing, they don't want to put anything in writing. But she said that, and Community Board 8 on the Upper East Side was in a storm about this. And they organized and they protested, and they got their
Can we just answer the question?
Yes.
that was asked? Thank you.
So as far as I know, they haven't had any installed, though one is supposed to be put up on Fifth Avenue, catty corner to Guggenheim Museum.
Thank
And
you.
they're in an uproar about that.
Thank you. We'll go to Jose Altamirano as a community board member, and then Theodora, I'll come to you next.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I just wanted to point out then that in public safety, we have an action item tonight that we are against the installation of these towers in our community. We will be voting later on in this meeting. I just wanted to bring that up in case anyone was unaware of that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. Theodora?
Thank you so much. I'm Executive Director of Environmental Health Trust, and slightly in answer to some of the questions, and we're a scientific nonprofit working in the issue of environmental health, especially wireless radiation right now. Many communities in the United States actually have setbacks of 250 to 1,000 feet for cell towers in the vicinity of homes, schools, sometimes also religious institutions. Not in New York City, of course, and not in Washington, D.C. Now, contrary to statements that this is a Russian plot or whatever, the Journal of the National Cancer Institute published a letter by experts, some Environmental Health Trust scientific advisors and board members, actually, including the former director of the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, Dr. Linda Birnbaum, who you can look up and has done a lot of incredible work until her retirement, as well as chief of OBGYN at Yale New Haven, Dr. Hugh Taylor, stating that, and I'll quote, "The majority of animal and cell studies have found non-ionizing radiofrequency radiation can induce oxidative stress, a key characteristic of human carcinogens, in a way that radiofrequency radiation can initiate or promote tumor development, as well as play a role in the development of other diseases." And then they go on to say, DNA damage and cancer in these state-of-the-art science studies signal the need for the public to reduce exposures to radiofrequency radiation now.
Thank you, Theodora. Do you have a question for Susan? I know you're speaking next.
Oh, I was speaking. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't know.
Okay.
I wasn't
Angel, did we
asking a
start the timer?
question.
I'm so sorry.
I'm so sorry.
I'll give you a couple minutes left.
Okay, so we sued the federal government, the FCC, related to their limits. There are these outdated limits which have not been reviewed for decades. And we had a favorable ruling in the U.S. Appeals Court, D.C. Circuit, that ruled that the FCC had ignored substantial evidence on the record and not explained why they were deciding not to update their limits, specifically related to really important issues related to the 5G towers. That's long-term exposure, children's unique vulnerability, and how the new and modern technology, how does the limits from 1996 apply to the new modern technologies? We have higher frequencies, we have different data rates, we have a different kind of modulation and so forth. The FCC has not responded. It's been since over a year now, and thus safety cannot be seen as assured. The other thing I want to mention is that insurers do not consider safety assured. In fact, they often exclude electromagnetic radiation. They define, and even the telephone companies themselves, the wireless companies, define pollution as including electromagnetic radiation, non-ionizing, in their cell phone insurance packages that they share. It's considered a high risk by insurers' white papers. They compare the issue to lead and asbestos. And finally, I will say that there is a review, I put some links in the chat, a review on cell tower radiation health effects entitled "Evidence for Health Risk by Radiofrequency on Humans Living Around Mobile Base Stations, from Radiofrequency Sickness to Cancer." They reviewed the existing scientific literature and found radiofrequency sickness, cancer, and changes in biochemical parameters, and that's by Alfonso Balmori. So there are hundreds of independent scientists speaking out on this. And as well, the New Hampshire State Commission on 5G Health and Environment investigated this issue over a year. And if you're interested in learning more, go to their final report, where they recommend a distance of 1,640 feet for a cell tower setback for homes and schools. And we're at ehtrust.org is our organization. I'm glad to answer any questions and to share sources for the statements that I'm providing. Thank you.
Thank you, Theodora. Are there any questions? Please raise your hand. James?
So I see there's a lot of concern. So my question is, what do you need from me as a restaurant owner, right, to inform the community, as well as what do you need or what does the community need from us specifically to prevent these towers from going up?
I don't know if, well, I can't answer what I'm asking you. I'm basically to share this information. I think what needs to be done is there needs to be outreach to your elected officials to immediately take action on this. And also not just at the local level of New York City, but to address the federal lack of accountability. Many hands make light work, and you are in the thick of it with all of these towers going up, with the community not participating in the decision-making process, with these outdated rules. You're sort of like, you know, they say the personal is the political. You're the personal, this is affecting people, but it is a political issue. So I think engaging the community, letting them know, and contacting officials is the way forward. Because as someone just told me on the phone today, the answer that she said to me, she's from New York City, she said the answer is no.
Thank you,
It's
Theodora.
just as simple as that.
Thank you, James. Nilsa?
Ms. Corrado, did you put your information in the chat?
I did put a briefing in, and I'll put my contact information in right now.
Okay, and anything that you mentioned the final report, I'm not sure if that was the briefing that you are alluding to just now. If you can put in any and all sources that you may have mentioned, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I'll put that in.
Thank you, Nelsa. Jihad?
Hi, I'm on the bridge, so if the voice comes in and out, please forgive me. I wanted to.
You just muted yourself.
I already have 5G on my phone. How is 5G operating now, and do we still need these towers with the network?
If I heard the question correctly, it was we have 5G on our phones now. So what are the towers doing to help in any way? Is that correct?
I think that's a very good question. So 5G on the phone actually doesn't always mean, depending on the phone, that it is the 5G modulation. It might be a frequency used for the Wi-Fi but I would say this, I think it is a really good question, is what are these for? Do you already have service? Because as I understand it, there's already service. And there's a lot of questions about what the need is. In fact, we sent a letter to the city asking, why are you putting these here and in this configuration? Is there really a need to have the networks so close to people where they live, work, and play? So I think that's a question for the city, and they should show the data on that. They should show why they think they need it.
And thank you to all of our questions and our presenters. We will move on now to hear from our local elected officials, and I will pass it over to our chair, Xavier Santiago.
Thank you very much, Jessica. I appreciate you tagging in. We had a personal family matter I was dealing with, and that's why we have a team, our executive team, and I appreciate your leaning in this moment. I want to welcome everyone to this April's full board meeting. We're going to go to our public elected officials. We either have our elected officials here or one of their representatives and from the staff. Again, we ask that if you have any event, service, literature be sent to our office so that we may post and share it as is appropriate. Please keep your report to 3 minutes and to be mindful not to repeat what others have already mentioned. If required, the chair will remind you of the time or concluding the remarks. I have our first one up is Sophie Sokor from Senator Serrano's office. Sophia? And please unmute yourself. Sophia? Okay, I'm going to move. Oh, there she is.
Sorry, here I am. Sorry
That's
about
quite
that.
all right.
Having
All
some
right, you have your
technical
3 minutes. Welcome.
Hey everyone, I'm Sophie from Senator Serrano's office. Hope everyone's having a good Wednesday. Sadly, we are still in budget season. I can assure you, anybody who's been following the New York State budget, it seems like it will never end, but I can assure you the senator and all of his colleagues are working very hard to get a final budget passed, which includes affordable housing, livable minimum wage, arts and culture funding, and things that really benefit people in our district. The senator joined his colleagues today at a press conference in Albany, just to advocate for a livable minimum wage in New York City. He's also passed some bills since our last community board meeting. One is S259, which requires cultural awareness and competence training for medical professionals, and S1608, which permits farmers markets in state and local parks. The senator also wanted me to extend his thankfulness for having such a wonderful Earth Day conference last week. He had so much fun and loved seeing all of you guys in person. As always, if you have any questions or concerns, please reach out to me. I will put my email in the chat. And sorry for the technical issues. Hopefully I get that fixed by next month.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions from our board members? Michelle, your question.
Hi, yes, thank you for your presentation, and it was wonderful meeting at the Earth Day conference. I would like to find out about the bills that you mentioned. Can you please put the numbers and letters in the chat as well?
Yes, I can absolutely do that.
Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Michelle. Okay. Thank you for being with us. Jason Wu, you have your hand raised. Jason, your question.
Thank you. And this question is for all the elected officials. So I will try not to ask it again. So I ask all of the elected officials to be responsive to the question. There was a recent report that the Rent Guidelines Board here in New York City is proposing extremely high rent increases for rent stabilized apartments here in New York City, which would affect 1 million units, including in communities like in East Harlem and Community Board District 11. And so I ask all of the elected officials, what is your position on the proposed increases, which have been estimated to potentially be up to 16% for rent increases? The Rent Guidelines Board is starting hearings, I believe, next week, and will vote a final vote in end of June. But we need to weigh in now, and we need our elected officials to stand up for us. And so I ask all of the elected officials, please share what is your current position, and will you advocate to demand that the Rent Guidelines Board keeps the increases as low as possible, given the affordability crisis here in New York City?
Thank you, Jason. So Sophia, do you wish to answer?
Yeah, so on that specific bill, I'd have to do a little more research and talk to the senator directly, but I can assure you that the senator is a fierce advocate for affordable housing and understands what's going on in the city right now when it comes to inaffordability. Right now in the state budget, he's advocating for good cause eviction to pass and all of these other bills that give a lot of protections to renters who make up the majority of the city. So if you want to email me directly with specific concerns with housing, please do so. I'm about to put my info in the chat right now, and we could connect and get you set up to get an answer from the senator.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we will be discussing this further at the Housing Committee meeting. And so we also invite all of our elected officials to attend then as well.
Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you and I being able to connect over text, and that's something I'm raising with John and Don so that we could put that on the calendar. Thank you. And to the electeds, that would be the place to get into the weeds. Moving on with our agenda. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Sophia. We have next up, next in the list is Jessica Mates from Attorney General Letitia James. Jessica?
Yeah, hi, Board 11, and thank you, Xavier. It's great to be here. Jason, thank you for raising the housing issue. I don't know that we've made a statement on it, but I will let you know and find out about the Rent Guidelines Board. I just quickly wanted to say one of the things that the Attorney General's office is working on is that we received last year 4,000 complaints about data breaches. And this is, companies where people put in their information, you may be buying something or whatever, and there's a data breach and your information, social security number, whatever is out there in the world. And so we are, we do a lot of investigations around that. And the Attorney General just issued a report, not a report, a guideline, a guidebook for businesses on how to better protect consumers' information, particularly social security numbers. So that's available on our website, and I wanted to bring that to your attention. But more importantly, I just want to remind everyone that if you feel that you have that data has been breached, you feel like people have your data who shouldn't have it, if there's some identity theft, anything like that, I just really want to remind everyone to report it to our office. Go to our website. It's easy, ag.ny.gov. You can put it in the chat. There's a complaint form you can fill out, but always bring these things to our attention because we investigate all of these things. And this month we're particularly concerned about some of these consumer data breach issues because they can really end up costing people a lot of money. So that's just a brief tip for today, and I'll be on the meeting to hear what else goes on. And thank you again, Board 11. It's great to see everybody.
Good to see you too, Jessica. Beverly, your question.
Yes, but I see that James Gonzalez's hands was up before mine.
So the board members are acknowledged typically. So James, just I know this is your first. The board members are acknowledged prior to those of the public if we are opening it up. And since we've set a precedence for this meeting alone, we will engage in that. Beverly, ask your question, please, and then I'll go to James for a quick question, just to keep the meeting.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jessica, for that information regarding the data information breaches. Is there any way where it's because everybody's asking for social security numbers, and I know that's the most important things to be cut, to be protected. So is it any way where certain or it's limited to what type of companies would be able to ask for your social security number? Will we have to give it to them?
I mean, it really depends on what you're trying to do. And, sometimes there's a need for a social security number. One of the other things that we've raised is, there are some websites that pretend they're a government website. And they say that you can file for a form, get a business license, whatever, and they're not actually government sites. So we have some guidance around that too on our website, make sure it's .gov, make sure it's HTTPS, not, there's the S at the end. There's a few things to look for when you're making sure it's an actual government site. And, for places where that do require social security number for some reason, and, it sort of depends on what you're trying to do online, it should be secure. So we're recommending that, whether it's businesses or any website, that they use a two-factor authentication system, which is something that people use a lot these days, because that makes it more secure. We're asking companies to, encrypt people's information. So, it's easier. We're asking that there's a really quick notification system if there has been a breach, that you're notified immediately so you can take some action. So, it's not, I couldn't give you a list of where you give your social security number versus where you don't. It's just really trying to figure out, for businesses, how to protect consumers, and for consumers, if you have any question, to please get in touch with our office immediately. And there's a hotline as well as our website complaint form.
Wonderful.
And my last question is regarding what kind of penalties do you impose on companies that you find them guilty of breaching other people's information?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And when we do an investigation and find that a company has not done all it can do, there definitely are penalties. And, that can be, in the millions of dollars. So there have been, this past year, there was a lot of money that was in penalties for companies that did not do what they should have done to protect people's data, and to notify people if there was a breach. So, again, there's not one amount. It depends on the settlement or the lawsuit, but yes, there are definitely big penalties.
Thank you
very much.
Jessica, if you have a hot sheet of things to look out for, that you rattled off a bunch, like Secure has HTTPS for secure, things like that, that would be great. And we'll circulate it to the public. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. We'll send it to their office.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right. Next we have Marco Perez from the DA's office, DA Bragg. Marco? Okay, 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Apologies. I was heading from another meeting. Want to give you guys a couple of updates. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Marco Perez Jr. I'm the East Harlem Community Engagement Coordinator for the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg Jr. Our office is deeply saddened on what occurred within the confines of the 28th precinct with that smoke shop murder. What I would like to share with you all is that smoke shop will no longer be a smoke shop. What I would also like to say in terms of how we're addressing all the smoke shops in Manhattan, we're using our civil litigation unit to use real property laws to perform nuisance abatements. We've mailed over 400 letters to these landlords that have tenants that are selling cannabis illegally, notifying them that if they have these tenants selling cannabis illegally, we will evict them through nuisance abatement. This partnership is done through our partnership with the mayor's office, law enforcement, and other elected officials. Other than that, we've released a $9 million RFP to address mental health and substance abuse issues within Harlem and throughout the borough. Essentially, that application process has closed. We are in the process of selecting our service providers. Some of the service providers will be from East Harlem. Really, excited about having the Neighborhood Navigators program. What we're doing is we're allocating $6 million to have neighborhood navigators, highly trained individuals that will be approaching people that have mental health illness or substance abuse issues, really connecting them with community wraparound services, as well as court-based navigators, which will be placed in all criminal court parts, doing the similar work, but focusing on people that have constant contact with the criminal justice system, focusing on recidivism. Other than that, I want to say it's been an absolute pleasure serving you all as the East Harlem Community Engagement Coordinator. As of May 5th, I will be transitioning out of the Manhattan District Attorney's office, and I'll be transitioning to a new role at the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety. I look forward to staying connected, looking forward to serving the community, and I'll still be around in Harlem, everyone. Take it easy and have a great day.
Thank you, Mark. Sorry to see you go, but we're sure you'll be in touch. Are there any questions? Jason?
Hi, I just want to reiterate the question I asked earlier. And I get that it may seem unusual to ask the DA's office to weigh in on a housing matter, but there are studies that show that housing inequality, housing insecurity correlates with a rise in crime and public safety. And so if we want to truly address public safety in our communities, we have to address the affordable housing crisis. So I would like your office to also weigh in on this issue.
What I can say in terms of, yes, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, so the Manhattan District Attorney's Office only deals with criminal court cases. The housing incidents that you brought up, Mr. Wu, it does not fall directly under the purview of our office. The only thing that we do in terms of housing is if there's landlords or developers that are abusing their tenants, that's where we can step in. What I can say, Mr. Wu, is that I'll take your concern back to the office and see if there's a unit or, specialized appropriate person that might be the most appropriate person to answer that question. But to my knowledge, Mr. Wu, we only handle criminal court cases.
I think your office also takes policy positions. So I'm not necessarily saying it's a litigation matter. I'm happy to weigh in as a public policy. Thank you.
Okay. Policy broke up. Okay.
I said your office weighs in on public policy issues, and it doesn't have to be limited to litigation matters.
Right.
Thank you.
Those policy initiatives would be surrounding public safety when it comes to criminal activity, Mr. Wu. But again, I'll make sure to bring your concern back to the office and have the most appropriate person answer your question.
Thank you. Michelle, and then Beverly, and then we'll move along.
Hello there. Thank you. And I am sorry to see you leave. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, I can, Michelle.
Okay. I just wanted to find out about because you had a few gun buyback series and events, and I wanted to make sure that was to continue since they had a real impact in obtaining as many guns off the streets as possible. Will the person that comes after you keep that up?
So first, I want to say thank you for the question, Michelle. Our office, as you know, has held gun buybacks in the past. The last gun buyback we had in Harlem, I believe, was at Soul Saving Station, and in one day we recovered about 80 guns. So want to say and know that our office is planning to have another gun buyback in Harlem. I don't have the exact date as of yet or the location. The person that will be fulfilling my position once I transition will be a part of that work. I'm not entirely sure if you all were able to get in contact or meet the new Harlem office director, Courtney A. Bennett. He's your direct point of contact in Harlem until there's a new East Harlem community coordinator, and he is very involved in the new gun buyback initiative that we're going to have back in Harlem.
Can you put his information in the chat so that we can contact him?
I can.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Last question, Beverly.
Yes, thank you, Marco, for your presentations in the past, and good luck to you and your move on. My question is regarding criminal investigations that y'all do cover. Would Mr. Wu spoke about asking about your input on the high rents proposals. Would overcharging of rents to tenants be something that would be a criminal act or not?
Well, what I want to make sure, Beverly, and I want to explain to the community, I'm not a lawyer in any sense of the word, and I don't want to misspeak.
Okay.
So what I want to do here is make sure I get you in contact with an assistant district attorney. From there, we could be able to have a further and deeper conversation. I know that when we have landlords and developers that are using rent regulated buildings to overcharge on rent, our office has conducted investigations in the past, because these are landlords and developers using government funding non-appropriately. So then in that case, we will be involved. But there are a lot of nuances to this, and I want to make sure you have a conversation with an assistant district attorney to get the full answer.
I appreciate it. Thank you so very much, and good luck on your move.
Thank you, Beverly. I'll give one last question to a member of our public question, which James Gonzalez, your quick question, then I'm going to move us along.
Yeah, I like everyone's concern, and thank you guys for your time. The question would be revolving a lot of the vacant buildings and also the methadone clinics, the vacant buildings that lay upon many blocks in Spanish Harlem. What are we going to do in regards to holding landlords accountable so we have more housing opportunities for people? And then at the same time, what are we going to do to remove a vast majority, if not all, the methadone clinics and replace them with something that's more sustainable and better for the community, such as mental health clinics? Those are my questions.
All right, Marco, I'll let you
Thank
conclude with this.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Xavier. Thank you, James, for your question. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office does not, and I repeat, does not have oversight of the methadone clinics or the OPCs in East Harlem. Our office never has had jurisdiction over that. I want to make that clear, make that firm for the community. In terms of replacement, again, we don't have jurisdiction over that. That was placed by OGS and other entities. Want to make sure that you guys have the most appropriate information so you guys can have those concerns redirected to the appropriate agencies.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Marco. All right, and our last elected representative staff member is Nina Norwood, and we will conclude with her for the elected official reports. Nina?
Yes, Xavier, can you hear me clearly?
Yep, yes, I can. You have your 3 minutes.
All right, thank you very much.
You're breaking up, Nina. Nina, you're breaking up.
I'm the Deputy District Director for Congressman Espaillat's Harlem office. Better?
Yeah,
Hello?
That's getting better. Yeah, that's getting better. Carry on.
Better. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, that's better. Carry on.
Sorry about that. Thank you. So again, my name is Nina Norwood. I'm the Deputy District Director for Congressman Adriano Espaillat's Harlem office. So before I get started, I definitely want to address the question that was posed to all the electeds in the room in regards to the housing and the rent increase issue. And it actually talks to something I was going to mention in my report, which is the congressman hosting his coffees with your congressman, which we recently did have one in the East Side where the congressman is there. It's a very informal setting. You can come, you can meet with him, and you can ask him whatever questions you like directly. And we all know the congressman is more than capable to answering those questions. So we will be having another one, which is going to be, as far as I know, around May 6th. We're still working on the flyer. When it is available, of course, the board will get all that information, and we hope you come out, and that way you can pose your question. So if I can, I'll just go ahead and I'll move on. I actually want to speak to Xavier and Jessica. Thank you very much. We were able to attend the Earth Day conference with Community Board 11. The congressman was able to be there. It was a fantastic event. Thank you very much to all the electeds that were there. And thank you very much to Xavier and Jessica for, working so great with our team and making sure the congressman was there to attend. We also were able to attend many other Earth Day events this past weekend. I was with the congressman, so we thank you very much for everyone who were able to come out and been able to join these events. And we will be having more, of course, and the board will get any and all information when that does become available. But lastly, I want to speak to very quickly the art competition that's happening in the district. That's to all the District 13 high school students. That deadline is coming up this Friday, April 28th. So we want to thank all the students who are posting their artwork to our office, where the winner gets their artwork displayed in the Capitol building, as well as the Congressman district offices, both in DC and here in the district. So unless there's any questions for me, that will be the conclusion of my report. Thank you very much, Community Board.
Thank you so much, Nina. It was good seeing you as well, and the congressman and the entire team. Michelle, is that an old hand that you had up? If it
No,
is,
this is a new hand.
All right, your question, Michelle.
Hi, thank you so much for your presentation, and also thank you so much for coming to the Earth Day conference. Truly appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. It was a wonderful event.
I wanted to find out more about this art competition. Can you place the direct link so I can get more information on that?
Absolutely. I will do that when I drop my information in the chat. Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Michelle. Beverly.
Yes, thank you so very much for your presentation, Ms. Norwood. In regards to the meet for coffee with the congressman, is that only on Saturdays that you have these type of meetings?
Yes, we try to host them on Saturdays because we understand during the week it's harder for the community to be able to come out. People work and they have other obligations. So on Saturdays, in the afternoons, we do them in the morning because it is a coffee, usually about 10 to 12. That way you're able to come out, sit with the congressman, have a conversation, vocalize your concerns. We provide PPE at these events, mask and sanitizer and things like that. And it's a good way to stay engaged with the community and be able to hear concerns directly.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beverly. Appreciate that. Great question. Thank you very much, Nina. Good. Keep us posted. Well, hold on. One last one, Jihad. I'll let you close this off, and then we're going to move along. Thank you.
Sorry, where is the congressman? Which office? I know he has several offices. Where are these meetings being held on the weekend?
Okay, so they're separate. So our office is the Harlem office. We're at the Adam Clayton Powell State Office building on 7th Avenue and 125th Street. That's our Harlem office. We also have our Washington Heights office that's on 181st Street. And then, of course, we have our DC office. So it's depending on scheduling. But when we have these coffees, we have them in establishments within the community, local within the district, where people can come out. We've done them in several locations throughout the district, but upper district and lower. So these events are held outside. So we post these. We make sure that the board is well aware of when we have these events. We do provide flyers. And as I said, when the next coffee is available, we will make sure that everyone has that flyer. But the tentative date right now is May 6th.
Great. Thank you so much, Nina. Thank you, Jeff. And with that will conclude our elected official reports. Our borough president's report will be given later in the evening and probably interrupt our business session. The borough president is at several events going from one to the other. So as soon as I receive a text, we will queue him up. Now we are going to move along into our agenda. If you could move the next screen. Thank you very much. Okay, we will now hold a public hearing. Public hearing on the land use application C230286 PM and C230285 PQM for 244 East 106th Street, the Share NYC project. The applicant is NYC Department of Housing Preservation and Development. The developer is Ascendant Neighborhood Development, the Ali Forney Center. Community Board's 60-day review period runs from April 5th to June 5th of this year. And with that, I will hand over, hold on just a second. At the conclusion of the presentation and any witness testimony, we will hear testimony from the public on this topic. Written testimony, which may be submitted by mail to the board office or via email to the Manhattan, so MN, Manhattan Neighborhood 11 at cb.nyc.gov. The deadline to submit the written testimony is, Angel, when are we liking all the testimony to be in?
Should have it a week before the land use meeting in June.
Thank you very much. Okay. A few ground rules for witnesses during the testimony presentation.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. A
Okay.
week before the land use meeting in May.
In May. Okay, thank you. And okay, thank you very much. Again, if you're going to provide any informational presentation on the topic, please, and followed by testimony, there are a few ground rules for witnesses during testimony presentation. One, you must sign up to give testimony, providing your name and affiliation. You'll be allowed 2, you'll be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Then you should address your testimony to the board, not the public. You should speak clearly and into the microphone, and you should be prepared to respond to board members who may ask questions in order to clarify facts and opinions presented in your testimony. Board members should only ask clarifying questions. Commentary will not be entertained. Witnesses, you'll be called on from the registration list, which has been placed into the chat, and until the list is exhausted as time permits. If necessary, because of time, the hearing will be adjourned and reconvened. Otherwise, you may submit written testimony. Okay, so we will now hand over the baton to our presenters. Thank you. Who do we have here for Ascendant and HPD?
Hi, Xavier. How are you? This is Felipe Cortez from HPD.
Welcome, Felipe. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Question, do I have the powers to share my screen so I can put up the presentation?
You should be able to. If you don't, let me know and I'll make you co-host temporarily.
Perfect.
You should be able to.
Thank you, Angel. It says you can add it. Okay. Okay. Let me look here. Let me put it up as presentation. Can you, oops, how do I do this? How do you guys see the presentation?
Yes, we can see it.
Yes, we do.
Okay, is it okay if is it like the whole screen or just like, or do you see the sidebar too?
We see the sidebar, so you can go to full screen.
What do you see now?
The presenter view.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me try to fix this. Okay, you know what? Let me try to share my screen in a different way. Sorry for the trouble.
Go to the slideshow.
Yeah, the thing is that I have let me disconnect the external screen. I have 2 screens, so probably that's the issue. All right, what about now? Is that good?
It's not full screen. If you go to slideshow and then view show, it should make it full screen.
I thought it was, is this working now? Oh my goodness, first time that I have this problem.
Try going to slideshow, the tab at the top,
Yep, and then
and then it should say view. Good.
present the view now.
So you go to slideshow between animations and review at the top right there. So home, insert, draw, design, transitions, animations, and slideshow, right, Jess?
Yep, I'm in the slideshow, play, form, and start. Let me try this. All right, can you, I have the whole screen covered by the presentation now. It should be working, no?
Not on our end.
Oh,
Reshare and select that.
yeah,
whole
let me stop sharing. Sorry again, folks.
It's okay.
Sure. Okay, let me try it again. All right.
Perfect.
Good.
We're
Okay.
And
Oh, finally. Okay. Well, thank you for bearing with me for a few minutes on resolving my technical issues. Let's start again. So good evening, everyone. My name is Felipe Cortez. I am with the NYC Department of Housing Preservation. With me tonight are a few of my colleagues, James Chikoff and William Sedgwick. Also with me are members of the development team working with us on the Sharing NYC your application, who will then introduce themselves throughout the presentation or during Q&A. As a first step on the ULURP process for the 244 East 106th Street Sharing NYC ULURP process, we are very excited to be here tonight once again to present this ULURP application to all of you, members of CB11. So we're very excited to be here. All right. A little bit of background. I believe, as Xavier mentioned before, the applicant team for this ULURP application is the NYC Housing Department, HPD. This ULURP application was certified on Monday, March 27 of this year. The development team working with us on this application or project is Ascendant Neighborhood Development and the Ali Forney Center, who are also here with us tonight, and you're very familiar with. The proposed project that got certified consists of a residential building, which is gonna go, is gonna be a 10-story building with approximately 32 affordable rooming units, plus one building manager's unit to be developed under HPD's Supportive Housing Loan Program, better known as SHLP. The units will be affordable to households or individuals making up to 60% of MI. And the Sharing NYC project has been categorized as an LGBTQ friendly, and is going to be targeting youth population that are trying to come out of the homelessness situation. As part of the land use applications that this proposal is seeking, the HPD or the city is pursuing or proposing the acquisition of the previously city-owned land by the city. As you can see here in the tax map, the portion that we are seeking to reacquire is a portion of Lot 29, is the eastern portion of the lot. Lot 29 used to be fully city-owned. It got conveyed to Ascendant during the early 2000s for a rehab of the existing building on the western portion of the lot. But to allow for the new construction, we need to pursue new approvals, and therefore that's why the city needs to reacquire this portion of the lot to convey it later again to the development team. And with approvals of these land use actions, we will be able to develop the proposed development. A little bit of location and context. The site, as you are very familiar with this, is located on the eastern portion of the block, just a few steps from 2nd Avenue between 106 and 105 streets. Commercial uses are pretty much across Second Avenue and Third Avenue, and some on 106 too. Immediately, as mentioned before, immediately western of the development site is the existing building, which is currently under management of Ascendant. So once again, I just want to highlight that HPD is very exciting to be working with Ascendant and Ali Forney on the development of this existing currently vacant lot. And we're excited because with the proposed development, we will be creating much needed affordable housing in the community. And especially exciting is that we are targeting this specific population that is in high need for housing, for solutions, and help to overcome the homelessness situation. With that said, I would like to pass the presentation or the baton to Chris Cirillo from Ascendant, who will walk us through the rest of the presentation and will share with us more details on the proposed project. Chris, and I'll be passing the slide, so just let me know when you're ready.
Yes, excuse me. Thanks, Felipe, for the introduction, and thank you to all of the members of Community Board 11 and members of the public who are here tonight to participate in the ULURP hearing for this project. So, we have been working on developing plans for this site for several years. The current plans for this project were developed in response to a request for expressions of interest that HPD released in 2018. Our team, a joint venture between Ascendant Neighborhood Development and the Ali Forney Center, responded to that RFEI, and our team was one of 3 designated by HPD in 2019 to develop the projects that we proposed in response to that Share NYC RFEI. Excuse me. So we have done briefings to the Land Use, Landmarks, and Planning Committee about this project twice over the last couple of years since we were designated, most recently earlier this spring. And so I know, folks on the committee are pretty familiar with it, but for folks on the larger board who may not have heard much about the project, I'll walk you through what we are proposing. So as Felipe noted, Ascendant acquired the adjacent 5-story apartment building from HPD. That was back in the 1990s. We rehabilitated that building as well as 2 others nearby as affordable rental housing. So that is an existing operating 7-apartment building. And at the time, HPD conveyed the vacant lot next door, which had previously held a similar building on it, but that had been demolished due to its condition. So the site has been vacant ever since. There were no plans to develop new construction on it. There was no funding mechanism to do that at the time that the adjacent building was conveyed to us. And so, we have been looking at it for several years as an opportunity to develop a new project. And the site was upzoned as part of the East Harlem rezoning so a few years ago now. And so that really created the opportunity to develop this new 10-story building. So under the Share NYC RFEI that HPD released, they were looking for new models of shared housing where residents of the proposed buildings would share kitchens and/or bathrooms. So would not have traditional apartment units that would have their own individual kitchens and bathrooms. So we looked at this building, we looked at the site, looked at what we could develop, and came up with this proposal for a new 10-story building. The building will have 4 shared housing units. Each shared housing unit is essentially a duplex within the building. So from the 3rd floor through the 10th floor, those floors are divided up into 4 duplexes. Each of those duplex shared housing units will have 1 kitchen. It will have Each of those duplexes will have 8 rooming units, 4 on each floor. They'll have shared living space, work and study space for residents. And so essentially, those 4 housing units contain a total of 32 rooming units. The entire building will be served by an elevator, so the entire building will be accessible. Excuse me, the ground floor will have the main lobby and entrance to the building, as well as a community room that will be available for larger group meetings among residents, and we'll have an accessible rear yard landscape space that residents can utilize for outdoor activities. The second floor of the building will contain office space for the Ali Forney Center that will have staff on site 24/7 to provide services to the residents of the apartments above. And part of the second floor will be the building manager's unit, a 1-bedroom apartment for the live-in building manager. Excuse me. Felipe touched on the population that we're serving, young people with a particular focus on the needs of LGBTQ youth, and also the affordability levels. You know, as with all of the projects that Ascendant proposes and works on, you know, we have, you know, spoken with the Land Use Committee many times about all of our projects, and I think everybody knows we're committed to local hiring. We have not finalized our selection of a general contractor for this project yet. There are a couple of general contractors that we are in discussions with right now. But whoever we work with, we will, you know, make sure that they are, you know, making commitments for local hiring and widely disseminating information about any jobs that are available once construction starts, and also work with local groups in the neighborhood to make sure that we get the word out about the jobs that will be created. Felipe, next slide. Okay. You know, as with many sites in East Harlem, this one is in a flood-prone part of the neighborhood, so it will be built to meet all the most current resiliency requirements. The image at the top on the right side of the slide is looking into the building, into the lobby. The ground floor will be entered at grade, and then there will be stairs and a lift to get people up above the design flood elevation. So the entire ground floor will be above the flood elevation, except for the small portion that we need at grade at the main entrance. All the building mechanicals will be either on the first floor above the flood elevation or on the roof of the building. So again, resiliency measures to make sure that the building can operate if there is flooding in the area. Amenities in the building, I previously mentioned the multi-purpose room at the rear of the ground floor, the landscape rear yard that's accessible from that room. There'll be study and workspace for residents in each of the shared housing units, and residents will have access to laundry as well in each of the shared housing units. And at the at the bottom of the slide on the right is a rendering of the community room, the multi-purpose room on the ground floor of the space. Oh, lost our slide.
Oh, sorry.
Do you want to handle schedule, Felipe?
Sure. So
or maybe you can handle ULURP schedule, and I'll talk about project schedule beyond ULURP.
That sounds terrific. Right. So anticipated ULURP timeline for the application, as I mentioned before, this application got certified at the end of March of this year. We are here tonight, April 26th, with you. If needed, I didn't put it here, but if needed, we will be more than happy to come back on May 10th for the vote. And then we anticipate to get in May into the conversation with the BP. And then after the BP, we have 60 days for the City Planning Commission to schedule us. After that, we move on with the City Council. And we overall anticipate to get ULURP approvals with your support, hopefully, during the fall of 2023. Chris, what about the schedule for the project?
Sure. And so once we have the public approvals in place, then we can proceed with the applications that we need to do to secure the funding for the project. As Felipe noted, the main subsidy source through HPD is the Supportive Housing Loan Program. That gets paired with 9% low-income housing tax credits. Low-income housing tax credits are awarded through a competitive process by HPD, and there's typically one application cycle per year. So the current application cycle is open right now for 2023, but only projects that are through the land use approval process and secured their approvals can apply. So we will complete our ULURP in the fall, and that will set us up to apply for the spring 2024 round of low-income housing tax credits. And assuming that we are successful in securing an allocation of tax credits, those decisions for next year's spring application round will likely be made in the early summer, so June or July of 2024. We are pretty far along with our plans. We have preliminary plans into the Department of Buildings. So we expect that, we will be in a good position once the funding is in place to start construction soon after that. So I would anticipate that if we do get that allocation of tax credits next year from HPD, that will likely close on the project sometime in the second half of 2024 and start construction. And we anticipate an 18 to 24 month construction period. So that would put us at completion sometime in 2026.
And with that, we are open for questions.
Okay, very good, very good. Thank you very much. And these, Angel, correct me if I'm wrong, but these would be questions from the public, correct?
So it's testimony from the public.
Testimony from the public, and then questions from potentially our board members. Okay, great. All right, is there anyone registered to give testimony? Let's see, James Gonzalez. Do you wish to give testimony?
Yes, I had questions along this. So thank you guys for bringing this to our attention. So you mentioned affordability. So the questions I have listed are, what are the requirements for the affordability within residents? Why did you guys choose a vacant lot opposed to not selecting vacant buildings? Where's the money that's being used for this, or that you're seeking? Why for a new building opposed to existing buildings? How much money is it going to take? And I can send these questions. What is the threshold income per person for this affordability? When you mentioned that you're looking for local contractors, is this local contractors within East Harlem or the tri-state area? And then in the form of, the building looks beautiful, but why does this building not represent East Harlem opposed to the way it looks? It seems like a gentrified Brooklyn area. If you need those questions right now, I'm more than happy to send them.
Okay, thank you, James. All right, Chris, do you want to take a stab at those? I know you presented our land use committee earlier this month, but go ahead.
Sure. There were a lot of questions there. I will do my best to remember them all. We have presented the project a number of times to the Land Use, Landmarks, and Planning Committee. We've also gone before 3 other CB11 committees over the last 4 years since we were designated, including Economic Development and Culture, Youth and Education, and the Housing Committee. I'm not sure which one to start with. I guess in terms of design, we've generally received very positive feedback about the design of the building. Obviously design is a very subjective thing. I appreciate you expressing your opinion about your thoughts about how the building looks. You know, we're really excited about it and think that it fits in with the neighborhood. You know, noted. The funding sources through the supportive housing loan program are available for new construction projects or for rehabilitation projects. We happen to have this vacant lot that had no other use. It's a small vacant lot, and so it did not lend itself to building larger apartments. And so we were initially looking at it as a traditional supportive housing loan program project that would have had traditional studios for each individual resident. But when HPD issued their Share NYC RFEI, which was looking for new models of shared housing, we and our partners at the Ali Forney Center and our architects felt that you know, it was a great opportunity to look at shared supportive housing that would be really ideal for the population that we're intending to serve, which is young people ages 16 to 24, with a particular focus on the needs of LGBTQ youth. You know, there are obviously vacant buildings all around the city that definitely we would love to see rehabbed. You know, we have, over the course of the history of our organization, which you know, is based in East Harlem and has been serving the neighborhood for 35 years. We have rehabilitated and now operate as affordable housing 23 buildings and have newly constructed another 5 buildings. So we have a current portfolio of 28 buildings. All but one are in East Harlem. All of them provide low-income housing. There are close to 700 apartments in those buildings. The Share NYC project and our 3 other projects are going to add another 600 affordable apartments in the neighborhood. And we are currently working on the rehabilitation of close to 1,600 NYCHA public housing apartments in East and Central Harlem. So you know, we try to get involved in as much affordable housing preservation and development as we can. So this is one small new construction project among many projects that we are working on.
And Chris, to add to your answer, also because it happened that for this particular project, we're developing affordable, like an existing vacant lot, or the portion of a vacant lot. But we have other Share NYC, 2 other Share NYC projects that are happening in Brooklyn. One of them being a rehab of an existing small building. I just want to remind everyone that this is a new initiative that the city is looking into expanding it. So as Chris was mentioning, it might be the case that hopefully in the future, we might be able to rehab some of the existing vacant buildings that, you know, not only exist on East Harlem, but in other parts of the city with more like shared housing opportunities. But it happened that for this particular project, we had this vacant portion of a lot, and you know, and we thought that by developing, we will be creating opportunities for more affordable housing on vacant land that is there. Regarding the AMIs, why the 60% of MI is under the supported housing program, the units have to range between 0 to 60% of MI, which means that in this particular case, we will be targeting a population of young individuals that are going to be making from anything from 0 to about $56,000, which is the 60% of MI. That's going to be the population that we will be trying to help out with this project. Anything else to add in that sense, Chris, on the affordability?
No, I think you covered it.
Great. Thank you very much. And I have one hand from one of our board members, Asher.
All right, I'm gonna try to keep this quick. I do have a few questions, more specifically from if we have a representative from the Ali Forney Center. Do we have a representative on the call? Or just
yes.
okay.
Yes, I'm here.
All right. So it was said that there will be offices housing services for residents in the building. What specific services will you be providing there? And also, if you have to refer out, where would you be referring people to? Because more specifically, like if you're referring, let's say, a transgender person for gender affirming care, where are you going to refer them to? Because not all programs are alike. That
Correct. Yes.
yeah. And
So hello,
also,
everyone.
okay, I'll let you answer that one first, and then Xavier, if I may, can I ask one more question afterwards?
Yes, you may.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Marcia Bernard, she, her pronouns. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of Operations for the Ali Forney Center. We are the largest LGBTQ organization in the country, and currently we offer entire wraparound services for our clients. So our clients could come to us needing a case manager, need mental health work, need to see a therapist, need to get their GED. We have that entire wraparound services, and we have staff who is equipped to provide them with those services. If we need any, we have a good connection with Callan Lord. So a lot of our clients are referred to Callan Lord if need be. We do have a Medicaid specialist who's also on site to assist clients who do not have insurance. So once a client come to us, like the first 30 days, they work closely with their case manager in terms of getting all their needs met before we actually send them out to housing or before they move to a different housing sites.
All right, just a quick follow-up question for Callan Lord. If you're referring people to Callan Lord, is it to the HOT program? Because we're talking about youth here. I feel like the adult program, from what I know about Callan Lord, is very different than the HOT program. And also,
yes,
will this building... Okay, yeah, you can answer, sorry.
No, it's fine. Yes, we do have the HOT program that we refer clients to, but we do have other programs that Callan Lord is partnering with us, Together Youth Connected to.
All right, and I'm not sure if this is for the developer or the Ali Forney Center. Will this continue to be specifically for LGBTQ youth? Because I don't want this to be a situation that in like 20 years down the line, it becomes something that it wasn't necessarily meant to be. And also, I think it's just important because if it is going to be a supportive space, there's risk for it not being a supportive space if it doesn't stay completely LGBTQ centered. So.
Chris, you're gonna take it, or you want me to jump in?
Well, Philippe, I think
I can take it. I can start at least.
I'll have a follow-up to that, Philippe.
Yeah, let's
go ahead. You start.
Let me take it. Good afternoon, Asher. Thank you for your question. Well, as part of any project, as part of the HPD pipeline, is gonna be mandated under a land disposition agreement that will require that the building is, sorry for the background noise, my baby is my newborn is right here, which requires that the building will remain affordable for a period of time, which sometimes could be between 60 to 99 years. And that means that will also remain as program, meaning for the supported housing, services and supported housing tenants here. I just want to clarify that even though the project and the units are categorized as LGBTQ friendly, that is aiming to serve young adults in need of supportive housing. This means that in no way or shape or fashion, HRA or Ali Forney will necessarily reject people or just be able to left out potential people that could benefit from these units that decide to let me get the wording correctly, that decide not to disclose their sexual orientation or gender identity. So the city and the development team is committed to fulfill these units or fill out these units with the target population. We cannot leave people out of these units that decide not to disclose their like sexual orientation. With that said, people that will seek to use or benefit from these units will need to fulfill the requirements under the HRA 1515 program. That in this particular case for this project is also we're adding the layer of that they need to be between 18 to 25 years old. They need to comply with the concept, with the definition of being young adults. In addition to that, as part of the definition, individuals will need to let me go to all the bullet points. Will need to should be or at risk of homelessness with high service utilization of the Department of Homeless Services, Department of Youth and Community Development, runaway homeless youth, foster care, and have risk factors including but limited to duration and episodes of homelessness, health or behavioral health conditions, complex trauma, vocational educational challenges, and other barriers to independent living. So in order to qualify for these units and to remain in these units, you need to fulfill these requirements. If that, I hope that helps to clarify your question. And
Yeah,
Chris?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. Regarding the long-term plans for the building. So Ascendant and the Ali Forney Center are development partners on the project. So Ali Forney and Ascendant will co-own the building when it's built. So Ali Forney will have a long-term interest in this building, and that won't change. We intend to be long-term partners, own the building, and operate it as supportive housing for the long term. So just want to clarify and amplify on that point that, our intention and Ali Forney Center's intention is that this will be a long-term asset to the community and to the city, serving the population that we are intending to serve.
I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be difficult, but transgender violence especially has been on the rise lately. I just want to know like what safety efforts are going to put in place if other people are going to be allowed in, because I get some people don't want to disclose and I get not denying people, but it's people need to know that if they have to go there, they're going to be safe. So I just think that's like a really important thing.
Asher, just a real quick, they are going to present to Human Services and Housing, where I think they could go into fuller detail. But real quick, if you want to answer that, if there are any kind of reassurances you could offer right now, and then I would hope you would prepare those responses for either both Housing and Human Services. I think it's an appropriate response there, and I'm sure Asher, you'll probably attend and keep them honest, so to speak. So go ahead, Felipe, real quick, because I've got two more hands. I'm going to keep our agenda moving along. Okay.
No, thank you. Thank you, Xavier. And thank you, Asher. No, we totally hear you. HPD, HRA, the development team, we are fully aware of the situation, which is why, sorry again for the background noise, which is why we, sorry, can you? Okay. Which is why we are specifically targeting this population. We are well aware of the situation that this population daily face, and again, we are committed to continue working with not only with Ascendant, with Ali Forney, but with other entities to continue providing those safeguards to these individuals. So we hear you, and yeah, we'll try to bring more details on the next meeting that we are about to attend, which I believe is next week.
That is correct. Let me get two more real quick, Michelle and Beverly. Michelle?
Hi, thank you. I'm glad to hear that this population will be given the opportunity to have housing. And I really was concerned about the dormitory living, and yes, shared units do aid in reducing the cost that would be for usual buildings. However, I am concerned of what happens if the individual does not maintain the standard that has been set up by the program? Are they going to be, will they fall through the cracks and become unhoused again? Or are they given some sort of permanence within these housing?
Go ahead.
Well,
I think you have more experience.
yeah, I was gonna ask Marcia to, you know, to address that question.
Yes. So currently AFC, we have 15 scattered sites throughout the city, and most of our spaces are communal space. I think thinking of where our clients came from and where we are now, we try to build community with our clients. So that's why there's staff on site 24/7. There's always a monthly training for staff if need be on any topic staff request. If there's a situation that's happening with a client on site, we would never just kick a client out on the street. Staff would have one-on-one conversations with them. We would refer them to their therapist. We would refer them to their case manager. So it's always an ongoing conversation. There's weekly community meetings that happen with staff and clients where we get together to discuss any type of housing concerns that they're having. So everyone is in communication. Everyone is in the loop of what's happening. Clients also have the platform of writing a grievance if they don't feel, you know, their voice has been heard on site. So it has to be like a serious offense for us to totally be like, hey, you can't live with us anymore. But then we'll refer that client to another program. We're never just going to kick a client out on the street, but continuous conversations always happens with staff and clients on site.
Thank you, and I'm glad to hear that you would be using Cullen Lord and the HOT program. Those are really good programs.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Michelle. And I know, Bev, you sit on land use, landmarks and planning. And just a quick note to our full board and the public, they will be attending Tuesday 5-2 housing, Monday 5-8 human services, Tuesday 5-9 youth and education, and Tuesday 5-16 economic development and culture. So you're gonna have multiple bites at the apple. Just a quick note, and we appreciate you showing up to all of our committees to present. Bev, your question.
Yes, my questions is really quick. In regards to, you spoke about co-ownership. Is there a 50-50 co-ownership for you and Ascendant and the Ali Foreman Center? Two, does the residents age out of this facility? Because I know you said you have a age for a specific age between 16 to 24, 18 and 25. So I want to know if they age out, do you have other facilities for them to go to? And my last question is regarding the income requirement. As we know, HUD does change their income requirements and it goes up every year. Would the advertisements that will come into play once the building is finished be set at the AMI that you starting the project, or at the AMI as when it's finished? And I'll take to the side, and thank you so very much for the presentations.
Thank you, Bev. Go on, Chris and team.
Sure, thanks. I will start, and Felipe and Marcia may need to jump in and assist with some of the answers. So our specific deal, just being transparent, our specific deal with the Ali Forney Center is that Ascendant is 75% owner of the project, and the Ali Forney Center has a 25% ownership interest in the project. You know, but we work as a team. And have since the very beginning, since before the RFEI. We were talking with the Ali Forney Center about this site before there even was a Share NYC. So we've been very committed to working with them and finding a way to make this site work as housing. It is permanent supportive housing, so residents will have leases and residents will need to qualify on income basis at the time that the units are coming online when the building is complete. And so they will have to income qualify and age qualify. Once they move into the building, they don't get kicked out when they hit 24 because it's permanent supportive housing. They can live there beyond that. They have to qualify, as a young adult. at the time that they move in, but they can stay beyond that date. Obviously, the idea would be that, at a certain point, younger people get older. They, move on from supportive housing to their own apartments. Obviously, Ascendant and other groups in the neighborhood have lots of affordable apartments. And if people are ready to, move into this building and then are ready to move out to, just permanent affordable housing in the neighborhood, then we would obviously love to have them if we can house them somewhere that we have an available apartment. So I don't know if that answered all of the questions, and obviously Felipe and Marcia, feel free to jump in on anything that I missed.
No, I think your answers were pretty good.
Okay.
Yes, thank you so very much, all of you.
Thank you, Bev. Nilsson, I'll let you have the final.
Hi, Chris. You sort of touched on something I was going to ask as the supportive housing, as the clients get older and may decide to transition into, with the support of the counselors and from the California Center and others, will they have priority in terms of any affordable housing units that Ascendant may have? Because I know through, obviously through affordable, you create these lists of waiting lists that are sometimes years long to get an affordable housing. However, because this is a special population and because of the all the problems and all the challenges that they may have to be able to set up in their own units, is there a mechanism to fast tracking anyone who wishes to and has the ability to transition to an apartment as they get older through the Ascendant properties?
We haven't really worked through all the details of how that might work. If someone, obviously we're talking several years into the future here, because we've got to get this building built and occupied, and then people need to age and decide to move out of it. So, in 2030, whoever is the executive director of Ascendant is going to have to cross that bridge. But our portfolio consists of buildings that were developed under a number of different affordable housing programs, all of which have their own unique requirements for remarketing of vacancies that become available. So, a third of our current portfolio is senior housing. So obviously, someone would have to stay a long time at the Share NYC building to qualify for one of those. And those have a very separate marketing process. So, those are off the table. But, a lot of our buildings are like the building next door. Affordable rentals developed, rehabbed under various HPD rehab programs in the 90s into the early 2000s. Obviously, they're in a cycle of remarketing. There have been some changes to the way that HPD handles remarketing, and they have become, I think, people have raised concerns about remarketing and how apartments are remarketed. So I know there are kind of some new guidelines that HPD is putting into place about how wait lists can be created and how those remarketed apartments get remarketed, and advertising on Housing Connect and other places. So I think when we get to the point where this building is coming online, we'll have to think through like what are the opportunities and what would the process be for someone who might be a resident of this building once it's up and running, who would want to transition into other affordable housing in the neighborhood when they were ready to make that transition. So, and obviously comply with all the requirements, because we wouldn't want to take away an apartment from someone else who qualified for it, who was on a waiting list for it, just to serve someone from this building. So I think, there's a lot of nuance to it. So we'll have a lot of thinking to do about what's the best process for that.
Right.
And in addition to that, Chris, let's take Ascendant aside, and an individual that resides in this building decides to maybe not pursue a unit with the Ascendant portfolio. And as far as I know, that person would need to apply via Housing Connect to any building that is going to be available online. at the time that this person or individual decides to apply. As of now, that person will need to comply with the income quality, with the income required for that specific project. If it lands with the community preference, which hopefully is going to stay in place, and it has the income, that person should be able to, have any other chances like anybody else does to get a unit. Related with marketing, if Community Board 11 wants to have a training session or some sort of like training with our unit, with the marketing unit at HPD, please feel free to reach out to me. I can maybe help you coordinate a meeting with them. So maybe you can get a refresher on the marketing process, how this might work in the future with what we're discussing here with helping these folks to apply, for affordable housing whenever they decide to pursue another unit in the market. If you need it, let me know. I'll be more than happy to help you set up something with them.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Nelson. It was a great question. All right. With that will conclude our public hearing. Having heard from the registered speakers and those witnesses who did register, we'll take the consideration of this matter. I'll continue at the subsequent committee meetings, which I disclosed earlier, which are Tuesday 5-2 at Housing, Monday 5-8 Human Services, Tuesday 5-9 Youth and Education, Tuesday 5-16 Economic Development and Culture. The board will be voting on this application at full board on 5/23 after land use has taken a position. So make sure to get in your testimony. Land use meets on 5/10. So thank you. That concludes our public hearing. With that, we will now move back in the agenda. Porfirio Figueroa from the Manhattan Borough President's Office is here. We were going to have Mark, but he is tied up, it looks like. Porfirio, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Board Chair. I so appreciate it. It was very interesting to hear the tail end of this public hearing, and I'm looking forward to what comes out of it. I have three short things to report. One, and just in time to honor and celebrate Earth Day, the Manhattan Borough President, through the Manhattan Borough Board, unanimously passed a resolution in favor of planting 1 million trees by the year 2030. In addition, the Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine, is teaming with the New York Restoration Project and Urban Garden Center in East Harlem to give away 200 trees with care manuals on Sunday, April 30th in East Harlem at La Marqueta. You do have to register in advance to receive one, and that information has been sent to the office. Community Board, I also want to mention one more thing. We did join the Earth Day celebration that Community Board 11 had, and the Manhattan Borough President was there. We were very, very happy to be there. Getting back to community board applications, we received almost 1,000 applications this year. So thank you for all who applied. Thank you for all who participated in the group meetings. The team is in the final stages of review, and we hope to make the announcement sometime the first week of May. Last, I will say, our website has a clean, fresh, new look. It's very easy to navigate and has a special feature where you can go to the heading and hit resources. Then you click events, where you not only can see our upcoming events, but you can also post your community events, and it will prompt you with certain questions so that you could give information. I urge you all to sign up for our newsletter and stay connected with all the things that the Manhattan Borough President, Mark Levine, is doing in New York City, along with all his initiatives. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Again, he sends his hellos, and I yield back the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Porfirio. Are there any questions for Porfirio? Jason?
Hi, I don't know if you were here earlier when I asked, but I was asking all the elected officials just to weigh in on the proposed rent guidelines board increases that are projected to be as high as up to 16%. Obviously, we're in the middle of the affordable housing crisis. This affects 1 million rent stabilized units in New York City, thousands of residents of our district. So I'd like to know What is your position on the proposed increases, and will your office be taking a position as well as advocating with the Rent Guidelines Board to minimize the increases?
First of all, thank you, Jason, for the question. I think I can say, without even having to check back in the office, it goes without saying that the Manhattan Borough President's position on affordable housing is that, one, we are in a crisis, and two, we need more of it. So I can clearly state that. As far as giving you position or how what is the position of the office on that specific issue, I can get back to you and through Xavier in the office.
Thank you, Jason. Yes, and Porfirio had not logged in, but when you asked that original question, so thank you.
No, I was not logged in. I just logged in. I was at an event with Mark, actually. So
thank you. All right,
Sure.
with that, no other hands, that concludes our public session. Appreciate you being here, Porfirio. Going to move us along. Thank you for your patience, everyone, because we had the public hearing. It's a very important issue we're dealing with as well. We're now moving to the business session. Okay. The minutes from the last full board meeting were distributed to board members ahead of time by the board office. If there are no objections, we'll have the minutes from that meeting. Board members, if you object to adopting the minutes, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Okay, seeing no hands. There are no objections. The minutes from the last full board meeting are adopted. They will soon be available on the CB11 website. For the members of the public that are new to this meeting, this is the business session. This is where the board conducts its actual business. This is where you will have the committee's recommendations that have been pushed forward, and the board will officially adopt those positions. This is for board members only to be speaking during this time, just as a quick reminder for those that have been here before or are new. I'm going to move in. You will see we're going to try something new because we've been listening at executive committee. We have been listening to the feedback from all of you about the length of meetings, and we are trying to do better to be expeditious and more business efficient and focused. You will see a timer that will apply to all of the chair reports, including the board chair, my own, and it will be a 3-minute timer. So we make sure we hit all our highlights. All of our reports should have everything contained therein. The minutes are what preserve as the final document. And what we give here during the meeting is a summary, and then we focus on the action items, which is the business of the board. So as a quick reminder, we have listened, we have heard, and we're going to do our level best to conduct the business this evening efficiently. But I thank you everyone for your patience, and we will now move along to the chair's report. So you go ahead and click that timer for me, Angel. Let's see if I can get this done. There we go. Okay, pleased to announce that a lot of it's information purposes only. Very cool. What we're going to do this May, we're at the end of May, either the Wednesday or Thursday after full board, we're going to have a refresher course. That refresher course is for existing board members for an in-person event where we're actually going to discuss how we optimally operate, how we can plug in more to the community we represent. And it'll be led by several of our senior board leaders. And we're going to walk through, there's the, as I like to say, the only dumb question is the one not asked, but it'll be everything from Robert's Rules of Order, et cetera, and so on. We'll also have, after the refresher, we'll have some smaller social gatherings before the summer recess. So stay tuned to that. I really do appreciate everyone who's going to participate. So moving on real quick, attended the 23rd precinct for a surprise retirement party for police officer Gibbons. I was joined by Jose Altamirano, Michelle Wilshire Clement, Stephanie Arroyo. For those that have known him, he's a true community service and public servant. I can't say enough good things about him. In fact, Pilar de Jesus came out and just spoke so fondly of him. And everyone who knows Pilar, she is very stern, but she actually sent a lot of love. May 23rd, had a meeting with Diane and Dan from Lantern to discuss their community advisory council. Angel and I met with them and discuss the structure. There'll be a co-led effort with Lantern and CB11. April 13th had a Zoom call with Senator Clara's senior task force. We'll be having a follow-up one. We did refer them to our statement of district needs and budget requests as our long-standing positions and how we can work together with the senator. As Porfirio mentioned, Borough Board passed a resolution calling for 1 million more trees in Manhattan. It was unanimous. We also passed a motion unanimously to write a letter to the DOT requesting them to present to all community boards regarding their new open street rules and application process. They have not been presenting to all of us in regards, just mentioning in passing, and we'd like to have a little bit more discourse on that. Final bit, I'd like to conclude. UMass, Upper Manhattan Empowerment Zone. Please go look them up. They are a lifeline when it comes to revitalization and helping our small mom and pop businesses. They have their microloan programs. They also had recently, as I gave a report this past couple of days, their cultural industry investment fund committee. They had focused on. Could you please mute yourself, Bev? They focused on a pilot program to strengthen the financial capacity of a cohort of 6 cultural institutions with operating budgets between $500,000 and 2.5. And within that, we were pleased to see that 2 of them were able to opt out because they are now self-sustaining. So please spread the word, because UMass actually helps a lot of our businesses, and actually multiple survive the pandemic. So with that, I conclude my report. I look forward to seeing you at community events. Thank you. Any questions? Okay, wonderful. With that, we'll move on to the district manager's report.
Good evening, everyone. Just wanted to highlight one thing from my report this month. On April 24th, the City Planning Commission certified the first City of Yes citywide zoning text amendment for carbon neutrality, kicking off the public review period with an expiration clock ending on July 3rd. The Department of City Planning will attend our Land Use, Landmarks, and Planning Committee meeting on May 10th to make a presentation and review details of the proposed zoning text amendment. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, seeing there are none. Jessica, do you have a vice chair report, or would you like to just lump that in with the OSP?
I will lump it in with the SOP. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Jason Villanueva is not here. And do we have a secretary's report? Michelle?
No, I made the announcement at the beginning that I will only be doing the last name during the votes as opposed to the full name.
Okay, thank you very much. And just to make the meeting go more efficiently on our action items, please be ready to pull the trigger on the mute to unmute and mute yourself back after giving your vote. Thank you. Now we'll move on to our committee reports. Our first up is Environment, Open Space, and Parks. Jess?
Great, just have to get all my documents in order. So our welcome to everyone to join our Environment, Open Space, and Parks Committee meetings. From this meeting, we have no action items. Our meeting minutes are for informational purposes only. But we did have a presentation from Central Park Conservancy on the Central Parks Drive study. So you can see more information about that in the minutes, but just to give you a little bit of context, they're looking to improve safety, improve mobility and accessibility, and to maintain the character of the park. They're actively working on a study, which I will post the link in the chat to shortly, that will include community outreach through an online survey in partnership with the Department of Transportation. So if you don't know, Central Park was first paved in 1912 and cars were officially banned in 2018. There are e-bikes, regular bikes, pedestrians, pedicabs, horse carriages, etc., and the roads are still laid out for cars with signals that are largely ignored. So they have emergency and authorized vehicle experiencing difficulty navigating the park, and they're working to analyze crashes, which actually occur frequently in our northeast corner in East Harlem, due to a long straight hill that allows for speeding bikes, leading to more serious accidents. The survey is open through June, and there will be an in-person open house in June for additional engagement. And the goal is to find any and all solutions for signage, materials, lighting, policies, education, and the draft report will be released in fall/winter. The Central Park Conservancy is available to meet with any groups for one-on-one additional feedback, and I'll post the survey in the chat. The only other update that I have is about the East Harlem second annual Earth Day conference that occurred this past Friday. So we spent our meeting wrapping up the planning for that. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of our partners, all of the people on the community board who have helped, all of the community-based organizations. Just really quickly, thank you to the Museum of the City of New York for hosting us. Thank you to Lexington Pizza Parlor for providing our food. Thank you to Khalid Nixon and the community board staff for all of their help. And thank you to our planning group, Asher, David, Debbie, Michelle, Jewel, John Green. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. So we had presentations from the Mayor's Office of Climate and Environmental Justice, Children's Aid, Silicon Harlem, Randall's Island Park Alliance, Green and Blue Eco Care, We Act, and New York City Wildflower Week, Department of Parks and Recreation, and Economic Development and Culture, Central Park Conservancy, Pleasant Village Community Garden, East Harlem Preservation, and Christopher Bell, East Harlem Historian. That's it. Thank you so much. And we look forward to next year. Please get in contact if you'd like to be involved or if you have any follow-up or feedback from the conference.
Thank you, Jessica. Very well done. Any questions for Jess? Okay. See that there are none. And again, thank you to everyone who participated. It was a fantastic event. Going to move on to housing. John?
Thank you, Xavier. The minutes for the Housing Committee meeting for April is for informational purposes only. NYCHA made an appearance and explained about RAD Pact and the building trust, and I thank the members of the committee for asking great questions of NYCHA at the meeting. That was really all that happened at the housing meeting, but I do want to compliment Environment, Open Space and Parks and Youth and Education Committee for the Earth Day event at the Museum of the City of New York. It was really a great event, and hats off to everybody, the staff, like Khalid was there as well, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I look forward to next year, and that is my report.
Wonderful. Thank you. Any questions for John? Okay, see that there are none. We will now move on to our first action item of the evening with licenses and permits. Adem?
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm just going to start by saying there was an applicant, 2312 Drexel Corp, that came for renewal and alteration. We sent them to executive because there was some additional evidence that was needed to be reviewed for that application. So there was a motion that came out of executive that'll be later. With that said, we had number one, Antwerp J LLC, doing business as Bar Goiana. It's a method of operation change. The method of operation change was they wanted to add live music, a DJ, and a happy hour. The restaurant's located at 177 East 100th Street on Lexington Avenue. The committee recommended that application be approved. Number two, SNJT LLC, doing business as Solmeyer Restaurant. It's a new application for wine, beer, and cider license for a restaurant at 2061 2nd Avenue on 106th Street. The committee recommended that application be approved. Number three, Sushi W Upper East Side LLC, new application for a wine, beer, and cider license for a restaurant at 1513 Lexington Avenue on 98th Street. The committee recommended that application be approved. Number four, Legends Boathouse LLC, new application for a full liquor license for a restaurant located at 72nd Street at Park Drive in Central Park. The committee recommended that application be approved. For anybody who wants to know, it's on 72nd Street, but when it's in Central Park, they have to go before all the committees that are, I think, believe around it. So, I mean, all the community boards, and we are one of those. Number five, Mint Management Services, Inc. and Tastings, Inc., doing business as Tastings, renewal application for a full liquor license for a restaurant at 251 East 110th Street. Committee recommended that application be approved. Number six, Prime 116 LLC, doing business as Boca Prime. Method of operation change. The applicant was seeking to revise the condition of no hookah. The committee recommended that this application be approved on the condition that hookah be sold only after 8 p.m. Number seven, El Barrios Art Space PS 109, temporary permit application for a wine, beer, and cider license for a monthly salsa social held at 215 East 99th Street. This applicant is seeking a letter of no objection at direction of the New York State Sales Liquor Authority. The committee recommended that application be approved. Next slide. Oh, thanks. Now we're going to move to our street events. Number eight, Museum Mile Festival street event. It's June 13th from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. It's at two locations. First is Fifth Avenue on 79th, between 79th and 109th Street. And then it's also Fifth Avenue between 109th and 110th Street. It's a full street closure. Committee recommended that application be approved. Number nine is HHFM East Harlem Farmers Market. I believe this is a weekly event, so it's going to run from June 15th to November 16th. Each day will be set up at 7 a.m., breakdown at 4 p.m. Location is East 104th between 2nd and 3rd Avenue. It's a full street closure. The committee recommended that that application be approved. Number 10, HHFM Metropolitan Market Farmers Market. Again, I believe this is a weekly event. It's going to run from June 16th to November 17th. Setup 7 a.m., breakdown 4 p.m. Location 2nd Avenue between East 97th and East 98th Street. It's a sidewalk and curb lane closure. The committee recommended that that application be approved. Number 11, the 2023 Harlem Skyscraper Cycling Classic. So June 18th from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Location is Mount Morris West between West 121st and West 122nd Street. Street closure is it's a sidewalk and street closure. Committee recommended that application be approved. And then number 12, Family Day Block Party, August 4th. Setup is 8:30 a.m., breakdown 4 p.m. Location is East 127th Street between 3rd and Lexington Avenues. It's a full street closure. The committee recommended that that application be approved.
Okay, thank you very much, Adem.
You're welcome.
Beverly, you had a question.
Oh, no, I was just raising my hand so I can be one of the first to
The motion to approve? The
yes, thank you. Yeah, motion.
All right,
Thank you.
okay, so we're wow, I have a couple. Are those questions, Asher and Michelle? Or are
I
they,
was just gonna second it.
were you doing the same, Michelle?
I have a quick question.
Or your quick question, and then we'll call the question. Go ahead.
Adem, I was just curious to find out about you said it was the museum mile was on 2 locations, and you said it was from 79th to 109th and then 109th to 110th, but isn't that one location?
I mean, that's how the application came in. I hear what you're saying because it runs consecutively. It could have just been 79th to 110th, but that's how it was bought before, so that's how we voted on it.
Okay, thank you. There was.
You're welcome.
Okay. Thank you, Michelle, for the clarifying question. And as we have done in the past, I'm going to bundle items 1 through 12 as one vote. And Beverly, do you wish to move to motion to adopt the committee's recommendations?
Yes, I make a move for a motion to accept the committee's recommendations.
Okay. Asher, would you like to second?
Yes, I second.
Okay. Michelle, please call the roll. She will be calling by last name, so please
Last
stand.
name. Okay.
Thank you.
Altamirano,
Yes, in favor.
Andino, Arroyo, Autry,
Yes.
Brija,
Yes.
Chaudhry, Collier,
Yes.
Cronchow,
Yes.
Crouch,
Yes.
Diaz.
Which Diaz?
C. Diaz. R. Diaz.
Yes.
Donadell,
Yes.
Elliott,
Yes.
Febrero,
Yes.
Flores, Garcia, Gillespie, Green,
Aye.
Hopkins,
Yes.
Johnson, Jones,
Yes to all, no to number 6.
Malave,
Yes.
McCullough, Mayor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes to all.
Orama,
Yes.
Pabon,
Yes to all.
Perez, C. Perez,
Yes to all.
R. Perez, Robinson Teg, Rodriguez, A. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sanders, Santiago,
Yes.
Scott,
Yeah.
Schuler,
Yes.
Torres, Vasquez,
Yes.
Vivas Vasquez,
Yes to all.
Wilshire Clement, yes to all. Wright and Wu.
Yes.
That is complete.
The motion carries. Thank you very much, Michelle. That concludes licenses and permits. Thank you very much, Adam. Next slide. We have Human Services, Isaac. Scott.
Good evening, everybody. So jumping right into it, in our announcement section, we let folks know that the Center for Comprehensive Health Practice is having a ribbon cutting. The Center for CCHP, CCHP is relocated now at 35 East 110th Street. And they are hosting a ribbon cutting ceremony next week on the 2nd at 5:30. I guess you could either, I have a Eventbrite link here for it. I can put it in the chat if folks want to register. I'm not sure how registration goes. It's on Eventbrite, so I imagine it's open to the public. The second and going into our updates, I mentioned this across our committee, the Human Services Committee, as well as Executive Committee. I'll mention this event as well because I did want to get as much feedback before I sent out my letter. This is the last meeting of the month for me, so I can send out my letter after this. But I went to an event, a community event discussion with DSS on March 29th. Pretty much it was them taking some time to hear back from the community. You know, it was a 2-hour event. And if you are familiar, I won't, for the sake of time, walk through all of the services that DSS provides, but it's a lot. So needless to say, the event didn't allow for enough time for them to be able to gather enough information. Hence the reason I am sort of recapping so that I can also get feedback from you all so that we can send additional information into the deputy commissioner of DSS. But I did want to recap really quickly, some of the issues that did come out of just to get everyone's sort of brain flowing on what sort of the discussion was like. Some issues that did come out of my particular group. They were like 4 different groups, different tables that held their own discussions, and at the end we sort of spit back all of the information. But regarding SNAP, you know, the continuing of SNAP benefits, you know, there was a they were giving extra benefits during the pandemic, but this has recently stopped, and this has been has caused a huge hardship for a lot of people who were very much so depending on those extra benefits. Making services more available to people recently released from incarceration. SNAP benefits and PA services are not as easy to get coming home from prison. Food connections, destigmatizing soup kitchens and food pantries, because as I stated in the last with regards to the SNAP benefits, you know, there's more of a usage of and more of a need for food pantries in these soup kitchens, being that now folks' benefits are being cut even more. Also in that, under that umbrella of the food connection, was cooking demos for unfamiliar foods, specifically food from pantries, produce. There are a lot of foods that you get from from a pantry that are produce, but may not be familiar to people, and they may not be familiar with how to cook the food and or the benefits of the food. So folks spoke about cooking demos so that community members would utilize the different foods and the unfamiliar foods that they receive from the pantry as well. Cash assistance for asylum seekers. This was an issue as it related to what they call public charge, which will count against a person who is seeking asylum, who then later wants to apply for citizenship, because in order to do so, you have to prove that you are not dependent on the country that you're applying for citizenship in. So it kind of puts folks in a very, difficult situation, because you can't, it'll work against you, but you need the benefits immediately. So regarding housing and homelessness, some concerns that came out was the need for DSS to reevaluate the urgency of what they constitute as an emergency, as it relates to emergency housing. There's a difference between, what a person who is losing their home feels is an emergency versus how quick, DSS moves in that regard. So that was the issue that was brought up. Access to technology was brought up, especially as it related to deadlines that people needed to meet, like, being able to make phone calls, being able to, go online and fill out certain forms and stuff like that, and not having the technology to do so. And one of the most important things that came out of that discussion was the need for sensitivity and anti-bias training for DSS workers, especially people working in the HRA department, specifically having crisis management skills, because as community members noted, at the point in which a person goes to public assistance, they are in a crisis, and the person who is dealing with them should understand that and not sort of hold an attitude against them because they're in distress when they come before a person. So those were a lot of the concerns that I summarized them. They were more, but that's the gist of what came out. I wanted to, if you didn't hear something there, please raise your hand and mention it, so I can also add that into the collection of feedback we wanted to give DSS. No need to repeat anything or re-articulate anything that's already here, because I'll do my best to articulate everything that was said, that I took notes on. So moving along from that update, I did want to give that because it was an important and good opportunity to give feedback. With that, we had our normal updates from the Department of Health and Mental Hygiene, East Harlem COAD, Bodica Neighborhood Health Center, and we had our cannabis updates. Shout out Cindy for standing in on those updates. We had an informational presentation regarding the results of the East Harlem older adult COVID-19 needs study. This presentation was given by Joseph DiMendetto from Search and Care Agency Programs and Services Coordinator. From that, the committee, I won't get into too much of the data. I would encourage people to go, and it did show that, obviously COVID did disproportionately impact our aging population, but some of the feedback specifically that the committee gave was that, looking at direct service providers and making sure that they have the information that is coming out of these studies that the community is doing. Also ensuring that, we're having community discussions to educate, other community members on the studies that are being done and the data that is shown and the information that's coming from it. Also, just increased recruitment overall for this study and just different types of studies like this that are being done, because during the meeting, folks spoke a lot about different like sort of pockets in different areas and different nitric complexes where they sort of came up with their own sort of survival strategy. And we wanted to be able to capture that and how people were able to make it through, the pandemic, and, what information was found in those spaces. So just want to try to do a better effort at getting more people to participate in these studies so we can get more information about it. So with that, the other presentation we had was from the Connect program, from the Mental Health Initiative through Connect program at Housing Works. So just really quickly, Connect is a community-based program that expands the capacity of existing licensed OMH Article 31 mental health programs by engagement in the clinics surrounding communities, in development and design of enhanced services. So pretty much just enhancing the engagement and the options for these mental health services. But they came and gave an informational presentation about their program. I would encourage people to not lean too much on my report and more on the actual presentation. With that, I will go into this action item.
Move the screen, please.
Yep. So with that, okay, thank you. So with this action item, I will say, so we are currently in the process of editing, making edits to the existing moratorium, sitting moratorium that we have as it relates to, or just referencing, past discussions and past reports I've given on, us, making adjustments, updating it, ensuring that it includes language that actually advocates for resources and is not just a stigmatizing document. So we're making edits as a committee. We've committed to making those edits. We did put a motion on the floor to extend what we already have written until next month, so that we have a live document because the one we had is expired already. So with that, I would say that this motion needs an amendment. It needs, if someone feels so moved to put this motion on the floor for us, it does need an amendment, and the amendment is a time one. It doesn't have a duration for the extension. And we only intended it for it to be extended until the next full board meeting, because by then you will have a newly updated document before you that we plan to be voting on again. So that so it concludes my report. Again, I'm happy to re-clarify anything about this motion if I said anything too fast about it.
No, thank you very much, Isaac. Any questions from the report? Please raise your hands. Okay. Not seeing any. And as for the motion that was exited the committee, as it reads linguistically in the English language, is that it says extend the moratorium on the starting of any new drugs while the Human Services Committee explores any potential amendments. So I listened back on the meeting, and I'd like to hear from if any of the Human Services committee members are there, because I think they were all pretty affirmed. I think it's important to respect the committee's work, but I'd like to hear from them real quick if any are here, because this will be moot in case your committee cannot come to a consensus, which I think they will and may, and then it will fall away. But in case you can't, it covers the position of the board in case you can't get a consensus in May, in case you have to push to June for whatever reason. I think that gives us the adequate coverage. But listening back to the recording, but I'd like to hear, I don't know if
can I respond to that? Can I respond to that before you say? I think saying that in doing that, it provides too much of a cushion for us not to get it done. The goal is to have it done, and that's what we committed to have it done next month, and that's what's going to happen on the floor. So I don't want to speak into what if it doesn't get done. Everyone on our committee, we, going back to the meeting, folks agreed that we would have this done by next month. We discussed it again. We probably should have had it done in April, but gave folks more time, more information. So I don't want to allow too much space for us to say, well, if we don't get it done, because then it won't get done. And we don't have like 2 more months. So we can't. I don't want to have something passed like this, or excuse me, I wouldn't prefer to have something passed like this with an indefinite sort of timeline on it. It doesn't put any pressure on anyone to be accountable to what we said we would do in a timely manner. So that would be my feedback to that. But please, other committee members, please speak up.
April, did you want to? I see you're here. I don't know. I think Art is away.
Yeah, sorry. Jewel has her hand up though. She can
Okay,
say
I'll go to
first.
Jewel, and then I'll go to you, April.
Sure.
I appreciate it. I'm not a committee member, so is it okay if I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Okay. So when did the moratorium end?
Last month.
Okay, thank you.
April?
Yeah, and so that's what I was just going to say. So it expired, the current, as it was written, the moratorium expired the end of March. And so what we had talked about at our meeting this month was to go ahead and extend it as is, with the intention of adding language if we felt so inclined, proposing changes, proposing amendments. But what we voted on in the motion that was put before us was really to say, we recognize that as it stands is expired, and we want to extend and keep it in place until we have something new that we've reviewed, drafted and reviewed and kind of all signed off on. So not so that we're all working indefinitely, because I certainly think we all want to act in a timely fashion. But we also want to make sure that there's something in place as we do the work.
Okay, thank you, April, for clarifying. Jessica?
Thank you. Also not on the committee. And I think I just wanted to say I appreciate the work of the committee, and I appreciate the concerns on both sides. Wondering if there's an opportunity to sort of meet in the middle here, understanding that we are extending this moratorium as it is for now, but that it deserves, review and editing as it was developed a while ago, and it deserves to be updated. But wondering if we can settle on a agreement to amend it by the end of this term of the board in June. So that gives us maybe a little extra time to consider what those changes may be, that we're not rushing this next month to get to the finish line, but that we have the opportunity to, before we close, and recess for the summer, to have a solution that everyone is happy with. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think I would, yeah. I
So
think that's a
through-
great idea, Jessica. I just worried that if in the, I mean, like, are we going to stay on the call to make sure that happens in June if folks don't do the work until June? Do you know what I mean? So those are more of my concerns.
Okay,
yeah.
Isaac, I have all faith in you that you're gonna get it done. So I think Jessica has made a pretty nice recommendation. It's just giving you to June now, and that's the hard cutoff. So it's not a bad idea either, but let's go through the questions and let's have the conversation, which is why we're here. So I appreciate you and your effort. I really, really do. Please, all sincerity. Diane and then Michelle. Diane?
I guess my big question is, what potential amendments was the committee thinking of? That's holding up that we have to extend a moratorium. I'm trying to understand what could that have been, or were there some discussions at the meeting?
Yes, and hi, Ms. Colley. Yes, there were a number of discussions at the committee. I would definitely encourage you to go back at least to the March meeting where we really began the discussion on this, and I gave a full-on presentation on why I believe there needed to be some amendments made to this moratorium. One, it's an outdated document. Secondly, it's a stigmatizing document, and it doesn't really it doesn't ask for any resources for the population we're talking about. It really is just a document that just expresses what we don't want in the community. And it doesn't advocate for any resources. It doesn't reflect it doesn't reflect the Human Services Committee's position with respect to what we said in our on the statement of district needs. It doesn't take into account the fact that the Department of Mental Health and Hygiene did come and gave us some concrete answers to some questions that we asked. It also does not take into account the city's statewide plan in this regard. So there's a lot of information that needs to be that I believe that other committee members should consider. And before we just go and say, let's just pass this the way it's always been, we need to really enhance it so that it can actually it can do more than what it has been done. It was good for the time. It got more people to the table, but I do believe that we should make some significant updates to it. So that was the need. That's where the need for the additional the edits for the document.
So the only thing I will add is that whatever amendments you guys are looking at, because of this, my understanding of the resolution came out of, because of, there was such pushback from the community about this, about the oversaturation. I do encourage this committee to reach out to the community as they discuss whatever potential amendments you're talking about. Otherwise, it's just, decisions being made at the table rather than the input of the community on it.
You know what, Ms. Collier, thank you very much for saying that, because I would say to you, based on it, I work in the community at a church, and most of my time is spent right on 116th Street dealing with folks who are transient and are, dealing with substance abuse, and they don't feel the same way that this community board feels about them. So with respects to us talking to how community members feel, I think that we pick and choose as a community board what community members we want to represent when we talk about issues like this. Again, I would encourage anyone who has a perspective and wants to come to our meetings, because we have these discussions in length, and we out there. I'm certainly out there talking to community members, and what I hear from them is not what I hear on this community board about the need. I hear people saying, when we're doing the next Narcan training, because my uncle almost OD'd the other day. I hear a lot of different stuff than what I hear on this board. I hear a lot of, oh, we got too much programs here, but in the streets, I hear different. So with that respect, I don't know, maybe we just talking to different people, and I'm right on 116th in Madison every day, 7 days a week, literally. I'm working with Youth Action, Youth Build, at least 6 days a week. I have different groups from them. So I'm out there all day, every day, as much as I can be. So I'm hearing a lot. So with respect to that, I don't know what, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we talking to different people.
Okay, thank you. Just to move the meeting along, Jessica, your question. Morris.
I was going to make a motion.
Okay, in regards to the matter, or?
Yes.
All right, Jose, hold on real quick. Do you have a question real quick?
No, I'm not on the committee as well, but just listening to the conversation, I think the points given that it is a very old document and that it should be updated, I think is very valid. And just hearing it, I mean, I definitely, I'm not sure what, if they're going to make sure that these changes are happening. Is that what we're listening here, that we'll pass something with condition for June, or? I just wanted
that Jessica Elliott had made the recommendation to, instead of doing it for the end of May's full board, just do it at the end of June. So we give us a little bit of a cushion. That was her trying to meet in the middle.
That's a great recommendation. Okay. No, I do agree that, when these documents that are very, our community changes and our needs change. And it's always good to revisit and make sure that we have something accurate. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Nelsa, real quick.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the conversation. I think that I'm not sure what impression this community board seems to have given regarding this process. I do know that the community was very involved in coming to the board the past several years. I think within the last 5 to 6 years, regarding their feelings of certain matters. I agree that this document needs to be revisited. And I think that community input, as Diane said, is vital, because we don't represent in a vacuum and we all have different shared experiences. My question is that the committee's work is the committee's work. And so if it is understood that the committee has this as an imperative, that they're looking to finish this within a month or so, or by the end of the term, is it necessary to amend this motion with a time frame, and understanding that the community, that the committee already knows what its charge is based on their discussions?
You know, so that's exactly what I was thinking. Although I was trying to make that argument to the committee at the committee, you know, and it was not received. But that's exactly what I said. Like, if we already are charged with making these decisions, why do we need to vote and pass a motion? We know we're going to do this, but I was not heard. So thank you for bringing that up, because that's exactly the point I made. We didn't.
Okay,
Yeah.
I agree. I think that obviously the committee knows what it wants to do. There's discussions of what it wants to do. If this motion has been presented as is, we should vote as is. And I think that Isaac, as the chair, will lead the discussion. And with the input of the committee and hopefully the community, will come up with a document that we can then opine on and shape if necessary.
Nelson, can I say one thing? I'm sorry. Yes, I would only disagree that we vote on it as it is, because it doesn't have a time frame on it. So that was
Right, but Isaac, you
yeah.
are a strong chair, right? And you have said, no, you listen to me. You have said
Yeah.
on the record now
Yes.
that you are looking for your committee to finish within the next month. And with Jessica's input, said to June, right?
Yes.
So you have a time frame.
Okay.
Even if it's not explicit in the motion, you have a time frame. And so I have no doubt that a draft may come out next month with the final product working within the next 2 meetings to finalize. That's my faith in you guys, without the time frame.
Thank
That's
you.
the only thing. If you feel that it's necessary, I'm not sure that that'll push you any faster. That's my point.
You're right. You're right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nelson. Jose, do you have a follow-up question? Because then I want to hear what Jessica Morris's motion.
I just hearing all the conversations, it kind of sounds like Isaac does want a time frame. So if that's the situation, I don't see why we would be opposed to that, because there is an urgency to this, right? This is definitely something that is very important to the community and should be handled sooner than later. But that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Jessica Morris, what is your motion you'd like to present?
Thank you, Chair Santiago. Commendations, Pastor Scott, on your determination to keep us current and keep the conversation and our positions reflecting those whom we represent. I'd like to make a motion to support the committee's recommendation to extend the moratorium of the citing of any new drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers within the Manhattan Community District 11 with while Human Services in not such short order, while Human Services Committee explores potential amendments.
Okay.
A time frame, not a time frame. Isaac, I think we believe in you and your leadership and your committee to do the work.
Okay. Motion is as presented, as presented by the committee. Is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, Asher, second. Please call.
Altamirano,
Abstain.
Andino, Arroyo, Autry,
Yes.
Brija,
No.
Chaudhry, Collier,
No.
Cronchow,
Yes.
Crouch,
Yes.
C. Diaz, R. Diaz,
Abstain.
Donadell,
Abstain.
Elliott,
Yes.
Febrero,
No.
R. Flores,
Abstain.
Garcia, Gillespie, Green,
Abstain.
Hopkins,
Abstain.
Johnson, Jones,
Abstain.
Malave,
Yes.
McCullough, Mayor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Orama,
Yes.
Pabon, C. Perez,
Abstain.
this is C. Perez, R. Perez,
Yes, that was C. Perez. I'm sorry. I haven't
thank
followed
you.
up.
R. Perez, Robinson Tagg, A. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Saunders, Santiago,
Yes.
Scott,
No, but I appreciate you all's faith in us to get it done.
Schuler,
Yes.
Torres, Vasquez,
Yes.
Vives Vasquez, Wilshire Clement, yes, yes, Wright, and Wu.
Abstain.
Okay,
Pabon for no.
okay.
Hi,
Well,
Candy for no.
okay, so just to remind everyone, those who abstained, this was a motion to accept the committee's recommendation to extend while they do the work. So I just want to be clear, that's what you all voted, whether you abstain, and abstain gets counted as a no. So Angel, did it carry or not?
The motion did not carry.
Okay, so it did not, you did not carry forth the committee's recommendation, board. Ergo, I will entertain a motion again, if you want to accept, for example, Jessica Elliott's recommendation to extend it through June. But I will need to have someone raise their hand and make that recommendation. Jessica Elliott,
Motion to accept the committee's recommendation to extend the moratorium on the siting of any new drug rehabilitation, chemical dependency, or treatment centers within Manhattan Community Board 11. While the Human Services Committee explores any potential amendments by June 2023.
okay, so through the end of June 2023 to clarify, so that would go through full board until they present the new work, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, is there a second? Michelle, your hand is raised.
My hand is raised to second that motion.
Okay, please call the roll. It isn't acknowledged.
Altamirano,
Yes.
Andino, Arroyo, Autry,
Yes.
Brija,
Yes.
Chaudhry, Collier,
Abstain.
Cronchow,
Yes.
Crouch,
Yes.
C. Diaz, R. Diaz,
Yes.
Donadell,
Abstain.
Elliott,
Yes.
Fabrero,
Abstain.
Flores, Art Flores, or
Yes.
Garcia, Gillespie, Green,
Aye.
Hopkins,
Abstain.
Johnson, Jones,
Yes.
Malave,
Yes.
McCullough, Mayor,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Orama,
Yes.
Pabon, Pabon, C. Perez,
No.
R. Perez, Robinson Tay, A. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Sanders, Santiago,
Aye.
Scott,
Yes.
Schuler,
Yes.
Torres, Vasquez,
Yes.
Vivas Vasquez,
Yes.
Wilcher Clement, yes. Wright and Wu.
Yes.
The motion carries. Thank you very much, Isaac. I look forward to the work being done in committee and very excited to see what you present. I have every confidence in you. Thank you. I'm going to move the meeting along if there's anything else. Just because
I'm sorry, can I interject? I wanted to just make sure that Beverly Pabon was having technical issues and has voted yes in the chat.
okay. All right. We'll note that. Thank you. Is there anything else, Isaac, real quick? Sorry.
I think.
No, just thank you all for your support. Appreciate you all.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm gonna hold on. Sorry, just very good. Next, we have let's see, youth and education. Asher, you're presenting tonight on behalf of youth and education.
All right. Hello, everyone. So I'm going to try to keep this quick. We had a very, I think, productive meeting because we were able to discuss. We have one action item, and I will, full disclosure, the committee was pretty split on whether to approve it or not. And I think we were able to have we came to a consensus that we all could live with. So so going to that, if we could go to the next slide, just so I could read the action item. All right. So motion to support graphics, I can't say that word, of funding from the Department of Justice, including their expanded work within Manhattan Community District 11. This motion was made by Isaac Scott, second by Russell Schuler, and was passed with 6 in favor, 3 against. So I think there's not much to say about that. If any of the committee members have any comments to make about that, I would say now that would be the time to open up the floor.
Okay, thank you, Asher. Attended the committee. John Green and I did attend the presentation, and we did register on it and our experience in how he broke it down in mathematical and financial terms of the long-term impact. So yeah, it definitely was a very good presentation and meeting that we attended, but I'll now defer back to you. Isaac, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I want to add a little bit more context into the presentation. I told David that I would also just chime in to give a little bit more context. And I also, I also help with the language for the motion, so I'm happy to talk about that in any way. But I think what's not being noted here is the fact that we had a community member, someone who grew up in East Harlem, come back a person who's doing work in East Harlem and in the city around gun violence for young people. You know, they came before us. They had their sugar honey iced tea together. You know, they had everything on the website. They had their presentation together, and you know, folks went into their bag of grilling, and you know, a lot of it was, you know, it appeared that a lot of it was that the brother Dr. Kai's disposition wasn't favorable. You know, he didn't say the right words, he didn't have the right attitude, but his work was on point, you know. And he came before us twice. This is important to note because he came before us the first time prior to when Xavier and Dr. Green went to the event. He came before us, presented on everything, and folks were ready to give him a letter of recommendation. They were ready to put a motion on the floor, and he stopped it and said, "Please wait, come out to my event so that you can see the work for yourself, and then I'll come back and present again." So he was very hospitable in that respect. Um, he came back and John Green, you know, give this man his stuff. You know, Xavier went on the record and spoke to his experience, and folks still put him through the ringer for another hour and some change about information that one was on the website. Two, I heard a person earlier today speak about how they target the LGBTQ youth for a housing space, and no one jumped on that language there. And folks went in for about an hour about how he said that he targets the young people in the school that are most that are committing the most violence in class. You know, so he used the same language that we just heard used, and it was just it was not the criticism wasn't valid because folks themselves hadn't looked at his website, hadn't done any homework on their own, you know, didn't want to go to the event that he invited folks to. So it was really, it was a very unfortunate, you know, experience. I feel like just as a committee chair, I didn't like to see him get treated that way as a business in East Harlem, or just a business doing work in East Harlem. Folks didn't understand how he got paid. You know, he's a contractor. His organization is a contractor for DOE. You know, you have to go through approval to become a DOE vendor. He is coming before us to get a letter of recommendation so that he can apply for grant funding, specifically the Department of Justice grant that they have out, which would expand the work that he's already doing in a larger capacity. So he wanted to expand his work. He's going to a lot of community boards to get letters of support. And he came to the one he grew up in. And couldn't get. It was very unfortunate, and thankfully we had committee members step up and give and help, you know, other committee members see that they were hanging on to things that weren't as important as the fact that we had a person before us who's doing the hard work that many people don't want to do, and that, you know, is actually beneficial in proving. You know, so it was a very unfortunate experience. I feel like, just to see, you know, for me, you know, I want to give that context because I don't want that to be left out at all. So that was all I wanted to say.
Appreciate, yeah, hold on. Asher, I appreciate. Thank you, Isaac. Just for the context, Asher, please, because just keep the moving, because I know it is getting late and people probably have been eating. So I want to be respectful. I've seen the hands just fly up. So Asher.
I would just quickly, before I like call on someone, I think, yeah, Pastor Scott was correct. There was some hostility there, but I think also it was a matter of people were, I think there was, it was a conversation being had, and there was hostility. Everyone wanted to get their opinion through at the same time. So I think that was more what happened. So I don't know the order the hands went up, so I'm just gonna go by what someone.
I'll call on them, Asher. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you. John, I think I saw yours, and then Michelle, then Jessica, then Angela's. So if we can keep our comments succinct or questions, go on, John.
Thank you, Xavier. I just want to commend Isaac for what he said. It was on point and it's very true. But on the lighter side, I'm not a doctor yet, Isaac, but I might be working on it soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Michelle, did you have a question?
more so a comment. I heard
Okay.
him come in and speak previously, and doing the work is not an easy thing. And he's out there and he's doing it. He's not shying away from it, and he's just looking to find support from the neighborhood that he grew up in and that he loves and that he wants to know is backing him. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Michelle. Jessica?
I'll defer because I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, thank you. Angela?
Okay, so first, the first time he came before the board, Dr. Scott or Reverend Scott, it was not assured that that motion was going to pass. He stopped it before we had the opportunity because there was more people on the fence at that point in time. Now, second meeting, I still have issue with is dynamic. And I went to the website on the first night and checked. I've asked people that work in that field that know him. I do find it disheartening that he expressed identifying himself as a doctor is wrong. And if he's been doing this so long, why did he need such a big ask from us in order to secure the funds? He should already have those contacts. And so I question him. And I judge him based upon the stuff I saw in his general presentation. But he was aggressively reacting to things as well. So just because he came from the community doesn't mean he's the best thing for the community. He's not interested in identifying what this secret is that he has, unless you're willing to pay for the services. So that sounds like is he genuinely in it, or is he in it to make a dollar? A lot of us do all of this. All of us here are volunteers. So that's my comment.
Thank you for
And
your,
I'm ready for the motion.
thank you for your observations. I'm sorry, I saw all the hands come up. Ashley, can I come back to you in just a moment and let Sage, Rosa, and Kenneth question or comment? Sage?
Yeah, I just want to say I completely understand Isaac's, Mr. Scott's concerns and frustrations with the meeting that happened last week or the week before. I disagree with the categorization of what went down. I thought the people who, including myself, who voted against the motion to provide this letter of support were not opposing Mr. Smith himself, but were simply concerned and wanted more answers about what was going on. And I think actions that Mr. Smith has taken contributed to those concerns. And I think being on the Youth and Education Committee, our most central priority is not with Mr. Smith, but is with the kids that he is supposed to be serving. And I don't know if he has those kids' interests, or at least he has not convinced me that he has the kids' best interest at heart. I'll point to 3 instances in which Mr. Smith just told things to the committee that were not true. The first one, he told a lie, I would say, about his educational background, claiming to or advertising himself as a doctor, but not being one. He also lied, I would say, about his degrees. He says that he has 6 college degrees to match each of the 6 felonies he was convicted of. And I support anybody who, is rehabilitated and comes back and wants to make a difference. But I think just the way to do that is not by saying things that aren't true, especially when it comes to dealing with children. Additionally, Mr. Smith has on his website, he claims to have never accepted funds from the state, federal, or city government, and yet he is a contractor for New York City. So I just don't understand how that's possible. And I suspect something might be going on there. I also did my homework, and he doesn't have any specifics on his website about what this program is. He has explained that the way it works is that he identifies 25 students that are the most vulnerable and maybe most violent in some of these schools, separates them from their normal classes, creates a new curriculum and a new plan, and puts them in a different class, and he teaches them, or somebody else teaches them. And I don't know, I want to know more. And when Ms. Donna Dell on the committee asked him for specifics, he wouldn't provide them because he said it was proprietary information, which I thought was a little weird, considering, you know, his purported eagerness to work together in the community, because we all have the kids' interest at heart. Yeah, so I think the last point I want to make is, you know, I support Mr. Smith's mission of, you know, helping kids that need it the most. But if he is willing to mislead the committee, I question whether he's the best person to do these other things.
Okay.
Also, I tried to contact people on his board and nobody was able to back up what he says. And also the board of graphics is listed as the exact same board as another for-profit entity that Mr. Smith also controls, called Better Urban Health.
Okay, thank you, Sage. Rosa, then Kenneth, and if I can remind everyone just to keep their comments germane and succinct, please. Appreciate that, so we can keep the meeting moving along. Go ahead, Rosa, and you can lower your hands, Sage.
Thank you so much. I just want to also to keep this short. I also want to echo what Angela said and Mr. Sage said. I was not agreeing with a conversation with the first time around, and I was not also convinced in the second time around. I did do my homework, I did read it, and I still have a lot of questions, right? Specifically when someone lies about their education, is to exceed and to do something that they're not supposed to. And I personally do not believe in targeting kids and profiting out of it. I do the work, and I am a parent volunteer every single day. I'm in different meetings and I don't need to charge for it because I love what I do. And just to be on the record, I did reach out to the chancellor's office, and I'm still waiting. It's been 2 weeks of waiting for a response to verify if he is an eligible DOE vendor. And I'm waiting to hear some information about that just in case. And I will keep you guys posted. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Rosa. Kenneth?
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I had some audio difficulties. So I just want to very quickly touch upon 2 points, just the misrepresentations here and the matter of transparency. So, initially, I think the board should take very seriously any material misrepresentations that have been made to our various committees. The difference between resume padding and misrepresenting one's qualifications as to this work. And as someone who has personally worked with formerly incarcerated folks for all my career, I think it's really troubling that this is what someone, and again, I don't doubt that he has the best of intentions, but it's very troubling that this is someone who misrepresented himself in front of the board. And then very quickly, the second point, transparency. I understand that he mentioned that he refused to divulge information about how his 501c3 goes about selecting students and doing other things. I think that's also very troubling too. There are other nationally recognized programs like Cure Violence, whatnot, and they share the methodologies on their websites. Because at the end of the day, it's about curing violence and helping communities and reproducing that model in different communities, right? And to not want to share that, or then to claim it's proprietary, yet it's also a 501c3, these things simply don't add up to me. And the final point I just want to add, I do think a lot of people will come before our board and ask for our support, and I just hope that, we give that support very carefully. That's all.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to Asher, then Isaac, and then Nilsa. So give me just.
Well, people mostly said what I was going to say. I think it was the main concern throughout the committee was the language. This is what people thought. This is what people found more concerning, was the language that was used, and then also the fact that there wasn't so much transparency. I think the main concern is if he's going to be working with kids, just he doesn't have to necessarily give lesson plans, but just like kind of explain how the program works, because his website was very vague when we went to look at it. So I put the website in the chat for people who want to look at it. So
Okay, thank you very much. Isaac?
Yeah, I'm not going to argue the points about his organization or whether he was fully transparent or gave misinformation or not. I think um more of my concern was that folks just didn't were just not knowledgeable about the process, and because they themselves didn't have a knowledge about. So for let me be more clear, specifically being a vendor of the DOE is different from saying I receive money from the city or the state. In that context, we're talking about discretionary funds where it's a grant from the city or the state. When you're a vendor, you don't get grants from DOE. You get paid your check for the service they call you in to provide. So in those respects, folks are giving a lot of crap about things that, all of these issues folks are bringing up now about the not transparency and the lack all of the points people just brought up, none of that was brought up. Folks were trying to allude at it, but if people want to be honest, most of the time was spent on the targeting kids, not understanding how he was getting paid. And it wasn't so, it's good that now folks have, built the, have went back and found things to, discredit and to, so again, I'm not going to argue for him because that's not my organization. I also run organizations, so I understand how you have to move and don't move. That's not the point I'm making. I just think that the way if we need to be building better relationships with our community members, and how we give support is important. So yes, we should be very critical, but also we should do our own homework. We should know. We should also when we talk about we want these non-traditional programs, they come with non-traditional people running them. So if y'all can't deal with people who don't have the perfect language or who don't speak the best or then we're not going to even get to the places where we need to go. So that was really what my point is at with that.
Thank you, Isaac. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and just to remind everyone, I understand how we get impassioned and as we advocate, you just direct the comments to the chair just to keep it so it doesn't, we kind of do that. It makes it easier for the dialogue to go back and forth. So Nilsa and then Jose.
Hi, I just have I guess a general question and then I'll comment. So he is a vendor for DOE, but it looks like he's asking for a letter of support for the Department of Justice in order to expand his funding, right? Okay, the reason I'm asking that question is because I have worked for a not-for-profit for 22 years. I've run youth programs for at least 12. And now I do other stuff within the not-for-profit sector. So I understand about the vending process. I understand about the RFP process. I've also reviewed proposals for the Department of Justice for their cure violence programs, for selections in certain boroughs. So my question, I think I'm hearing that members of the board were troubled because of the way he may have represented his education and things like that, and the lack of transparency. I just want to be clear that that's what I'm hearing, that it's one, the way he showed himself on paper or how he explained himself, two, his general manner, and three, the lack of transparency. Nothing should keep any not-for-profit to give a description, be it it could be something as an outline so that there's an understanding of the process. I would suggest that, I don't know if this would be a good reason to ever go into an executive session on a committee, but I think whenever a vendor or someone comes before the board and is worried about proprietary information other than giving a general statement, that maybe that's a conversation where the committee can have on a private level, so that the committee understands really what they're voting on and the board can get that information in a different way. I don't know if that would be valid to use as an executive session so that his information would be kept private. So I think that I think we all need to go back to the film if there's concerns about the presentation. I know that I certainly have to because I missed that meeting. So I apologize for not being as informed as I should be.
No, thank you, Nelsa. That is something that we desire to entertain. We do Jose, and then last one will go to Russell Schuler.
So graphics also came before public safety and transportation the month before. Youth and Education actually voted on a motion prior to our meeting. So, they got to have all the fun there, but we did discuss it. I was actually absent for the presentation, but I went through it. And my question is, my understanding, I just want to make sure my understanding is correct. His program works within the school system, like in the school. So if it works, is that accurate? I want to start there first.
Asher, confirm that.
Okay. The way that he described it, like I said, is like it was mentioned before, is he takes the kids out of class and it's like a separate class setting.
Okay.
And yeah, that's the way he described it. I'm not
So it's definitely
sure.
within school system,
Yeah, it's
which
within the
means,
school setting.
okay,
And when
go ahead.
he was also asked if it would be like someone, I know one question that came up was something about like parent consent and stuff like that. And he said, I don't need parent consent because it's within the school or something like that. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah.
Okay, so then
So
my next question was not more of a question, more of a comment. I just wanted to clarify that because if it's within the school system, then that means either the Department of Transportation or that school has full disclosure on what his program is like, and because they're not going to allow just anyone to walk in and just start doing whatever they like. I understand that he may not disclose what he considers proprietary to us, but I would imagine that there is no possible way that a Department of Education or any school would allow him to simply pick up kids and do whatever he likes with them. He would have to disclose his entire plan, his entire how it works from A to Z, and give them absolute clarity. And that's why I wanted to ask that question, because I understand there were some misgivings about that. And again, I missed the presentation. I just went back and looked at it. But I don't see any Department of Education or the, what is it, Justice Department or anyone giving him funding or anything without him disclosing completely what he's doing. So, okay, now that I got that transparency, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jose. Russell? I know you.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm on that committee. And Isaac has said many of the things I would have said if I could have raised my hand earlier. Jose's just, and what Jose just brought to the table is what I brought to the table at that time. I think what actually happened was we as board members, sometimes we cross the line and forget our duties and responsibilities. When people come to the committee, they have in their minds the good that they're doing and they want to share it with the committee. They go through the formality of just doing what others have said, come to the committee, to the community board and get the support. That's where it starts from. It means a whole lot when you can get the community support. But when an organization comes to the board and we have several committees and all the community boards, and we have people taking a position that they're not supposed to take, in my opinion, which could be accurate. Jose said exactly what I explained. Anybody that brings a program to the New York City Department of Education, they have to go through the scrutiny of everything, from every person that's working there to make sure they can be investigated before they go before a child. Even before that, if that curriculum doesn't meet their standards, with all the qualifications, all the certifications, licensing, and all, it doesn't happen. What happened at that committee, no one, and first of all, no one, we don't have any, in my estimation, anybody on our committee who can really give an analysis of a curriculum. So that's proprietary information. That's the Department of Education's job. This gentleman has been doing a program for 21 years. He is contracted throughout the state of New York. He lives in East Harlem, born and raised. He has whatever he's done to be incarcerated. He explained, he used the word doctor because he has put the pressure, because he has the young people that he's working with have a vision of what make them have a visualization of what they want to become when they grow up. And they pressured him to, he's aspiring to have his PhD. So he started adopting that. So I don't think, it could be, if we wanted to be really, as I said before, asshole technical, yes, he's misrepresenting himself. If that's way, but he's practicing what he's teaching the young people that he's doing. Like Isaac said, he's doing work at this time and age where we are right now. That's almost God's work to walk around trying to stop kids from shooting each other. Our job, I believe, is to be able to see what the product is being done, what good is going to be done. It's somebody else's job to see whether or not they qualify or will they be allowed to do it. So if there's anybody that's in this board that doesn't believe somebody got to come help our communities with all this gun shooting, that's what the bottom line is going to be. So our position is, he's just asking for a damn letter of support. He had a strong personality, don't care personality. And I think that could have, if you got a thin skin, he went through that skin. That's what I have to say.
Thank you, Russell. One last quick comment, Sage, and then I'm gonna let Jessica Alley make her motion. Sage.
Yeah, thank you, Russell. I really like the way you categorize that. I completely agree that, again, the mission that Mr. Smith is on is an important one, and it aligns with my values. I just don't know if Mr. Smith is the right person to be doing it. And I have questions about his motivations for the reasons that a couple people have already talked about. Yeah. And I think, he's pulling the most vulnerable students in these schools out of class, so he says. I think those are the students that we ought to make the most sure are in the right hands. And so when people have talked about him having to get all of the approval from the Department of Education already, what I would want is just to see one of his alumni come to the committee and talk about the program being meaningful for them and how it resulted in them having a better future afterwards. Because I haven't seen anything other than the thing that he invited Xavier and Mr. David Giordano to. I haven't seen anything to support the outcome of this program. And in addition to him working in the schools, one of his first requests was for us to support him seeking space to have his program, which would not happen in the schools. So I just have a lot of questions about how this thing works. And Mr. Smith has not really answered any of them.
Okay, thank you, Sage. I'm now going to move the meeting along. So Jessica Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. Motion to support the committee's recommendation to support graphics acquisition of funding from the Department of Justice, including their expanded work with Manhattan Community Board 11.
Michelle, you had your hand raised first.
Yes, it's to second the motion.
Okay.
For both the after-school program and the program in the school.
Okay, thank you. Please call the roll.
Altamirano,
Yes.
Autry,
Yes.
Brija,
Abstain.
Cronchow,
Yes.
Crouch,
No.
R. Diaz,
No.
Donadell,
No.
Elliott,
Yes.
Febrero,
No.
Flores,
No.
Green, Green,
Oh, no, sorry, aye.
Hopkins, Jones,
No.
Malavey,
Abstain.
Mayor,
Yes.